Hello, CPN family, and welcome to another workshop. And this workshop is again with our CPN resident natural cycle superhero Litmus A. Freeman. And this workshop is called The Shape of My Chart. And for this one, it's an interactive workshop. So if you're watching, then you do need a birth chart ready. And if you'd like to prepare a birth chart before watching this workshop, you can find a link in the description below how to get that sorted out. Okay, so enjoy and over to you, Litmus.
Thanks, Robito, for that introduction. Yeah, I'm Litmus A. Freeman. So this is the third of our CPN sessions on astronomology. I just want to share with you some of the things I've studied over the years. So I'm just going to put that on screen. And if you're watching back, you can pause it and have a look and see if you share any common interests there. But the thing I'm really into is how does the universe work? And particularly at the moment, I'm looking at Hermeticism, so astrology and alchemy and tarot and all those kind of things, as well as doing some music. So, yeah, this is all part of Project Freeman. So just to remind you about that, which I started in 2008, Gregorian. And it's a 3-part project: free the body, free the mind, free the spirit. What we're looking at today is part of part 3, free the spirit, which is all about everything being one. We're all one. You are me, and I am he, and we are she, and we're all together, and all of that. So, I think sometimes my package is going to keep auto saving, but apart from that, we should be okay. Yeah, so all is one. It's about the reuniting of science and spirituality for a sensual experience. You may have noticed on the list earlier, wordplay is one of my favorite things. Oh, and hello to Kenobo. How was your dinner? I hope it was good. Good. Right, thank you. Yeah, so part 3 is also in 3 parts: astronomology, alchemy, and ascending. So that's about the great year, elevating our consciousness. But we're looking at astronomology, phase 7 stuff today. And we've done a couple of sessions already. So we did this one, the first one about the great year cycle of consciousness. And we've got the Gregorian date, and thanks to Robito, we now have the UCC date, the Universal Celestial Calendar date, along the bottom there. So that one was at the start of Pisces last year. Last year UCC, that is. And I do plan to do one of these each month, each UCC month. So we did one in Pisces, which was the great year, where we looked at this cycle of consciousness through the Yuga cycle and all the astrological ages. We looked at a flip chart I did with where we put all the history onto it and where we are now. And that's the top, and we're down here. So we're still quite low in consciousness. If you want to watch that one, there'll be a link in the description. And then the second session we did on the 12th of Aries, which was April the 3rd, Gregorian, was about the zodiacs and the UCC. And that was a fun session where we looked at how the zodiacs are basically a calendar. And that's what you see in there on that image. So, astronomology, the reuniting of astronomy and astrology. So, let's get into it. Just a reminder, this is a Project Freeman Wisdom workout. So all you got to do is add experience at the end. This is all the knowledge, just add some experience, and hopefully you'll achieve some wisdom. So I'm not going to go through all of these again because they're in the last talk. If you want to pause it, if you're watching back, you can do that. But we were looking at the 2 aspects, the astronomy and the astrology, and the left brain and the right brain aspects of those 2, and bringing them back together. Now, as far as astrology goes, it's one of the Hermetic arts, because it exhibits all the Hermetic principles, particularly one called correspondence, which is, you may have heard of as above, so below. and it's derived from sacred geometry. I do another workshop on sacred geometry where I show you how the zodiac's constructed from sacred geometry, but that's for another day. Yeah, and the etymology is basically a telling of the celestial bodies. So it's the story of what happens with the celestial bodies, and that includes stars, planets, and constellations. And we're particularly in these sessions looking at the planets in the zodiac. So we're looking at the tropical zodiac. These are the 7 so far hermetic principles. I'm working on adding some more because I'm doing a thing called 10, not 7. So there will be 3 more. Thank you very much. There will be 3 more hermetic principles coming soon, courtesy of yours truly. And then we'll have a little session on that when I've finished putting it together. So yeah, astrology, it's a great tool to help us to, as Plato said, know thyself. I think it was Plato or Socrates or one of those guys. And for me, it's really about astropsychology. So personally, I don't get into all like crystal ball gazing and fortune telling stuff and sort of magazine astrology. For me, that's very Kali Yuga. So what I'm really looking at is how does astrology help us understand our own psychology in terms of as above, so below. It helps us realize our similarities and celebrate our differences and be ace, to have acceptance, compassion, and empathy for ourselves and others, and to balance our lives. The zodiac is a wheel, and we all start off with some imbalances, and one of our purposes of life is to balance our wheel. And if we can do that, we can raise our conscious vibration. And being as we're in a conscious people's network, I think that's a great tool to have at our disposal. Okay, so don't forget with all of this, you need your iPod. So this is something I came up with. Don't forget when we're looking at things, we need to know what perspective we're looking from, which way we're facing, and which way things are moving. So perspective, orientation, and direction. Okay, let's get into it. So this is called the shape of my chart. And Robito did ask me early on, like, why is it called shape? So you're about to find out, mate. You've been very patient, waiting all these weeks, as you say in Gregorian lingo, or deacons, as we say in UCC. More of that later. So the shape of my chart, what's that all about? So what we're going to do, we are going to be learning how to read our birth charts. We're going to look at the main components of the birth chart, the 3 most important parts of the charts, what our dominant zodiac sign energy is when you put everything all together, and what our chart ruler is. Now, if we've got time, we'll also look at 2 great ways to use our charts to help our lives and relationships. But we may not have time for that on this session. And if we don't, we'll do it on another one. Okay, so how do we read our birth charts? So first, I just want to explain to you how a birth chart is laid out. All right, so when you see your birth chart, it'll be a round image like this. So this is the orientation that you're looking at. Basically, you're in the middle when you're born as a little baby on the earth. So you're at the center of your own universe. And then you've got the sky, the earth around you, and the sky around the earth. All right, so the orientation is east. So imagine you're in the northern hemisphere facing south. Okay, so the north is behind you, down here. And the east is here where everything rises, and the west is there where everything sets in the day cycle, okay? So the top half of this chart, when you see your chart, this is the day, the light time, as I'm calling it at the moment. And that represents your outer world, the conscious world, you out in the world, okay? The bottom half, down below the horizon here, is in the nighttime. So that's in the dark time, and that represents your inner world and your subconscious. Okay, now over here on this side, on the left in the east, things on this side represent the self. And over on this side in the west, they represent the world perspective. So we can look at where our planets are in our chart, and very quickly we can get a feel for whether we're more conscious or subconscious, whether we're more self-orientated or world-orientated, just by looking very simply at where planets are, in which quadrant. So, this part here would be the inner self, and this would be the inner world perspective, and this would be the outer world perspective, and over here, the outer self. So we're going to do that. The first exercise we're going to do is we're going to look at what planets we got where, so that we can quickly get a feel for how we kind of perceive things, all right? So anyone got any questions about that before I move on? Because that's what your chart's laid out like, okay? So bear that in mind when we actually look at some charts. Right. So the shape of my chart. Let's look at the main components of a birth chart. And this is where shape comes from. And this is something I came up with a few years back now, about 5 years ago. I just realized that I do love wordplay, and I realized all the things, the components to the birth chart actually spell out some words, if you use the first letters. So in your chart, you've got signs, houses, aspects, and planets. And they all have energies. So all of these four all have energies associated with them. Okay. So, and as I said, this is really all about astropsychology. So it's using all of these things and the energies that you were born into to figure out one of the main things that makes up how you perceive the world and your place in it. Okay, so let's run through them. So the S of shape, signs. When you see your chart, the outer circle around the edge of your chart, that's going to show you the signs. So what that is the zodiac circle. So that's what we looked at in the workshop last time, where we were looking at the three zodiacs. So this one is the tropical zodiac circle. And these symbols here are the symbols of the 12 signs. And if you remember, those are the 12 equal divisions of the year, the ecliptic, which is the apparent path of the sun. Or if we look from our perspective, it's our orbit around the sun, okay? And it's just divided into these 12 chunks. And I've put, just so you got a ready reckoning, if you like, I've just put all the 12 signs down there with their symbols and what they actually represent. Because the terms we use in English are the Latin terms. So Aries is the Latin name for a ram, okay? And Taurus is the Latin name for a bull. So if we want to use the English terms, we would say the first month of the year is the year of the ram. And the second one is the month of the bull. And the third month is the month of the twins. But, we call them Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and so on, all right? So yeah, you've got all the names and the symbols there, and that's your outer circle. Now, if we go on to the next slide. So S and H of shape is houses. Now this will be in some charts, like this one, it's the next circle in. In other charts, like for example, Cafe Astrology, they divide this circle into the houses, all right? Now this circle represents the Earth. This circle here in between represents the sky, or the solar system, if you like. All right. So this inner circle is the sky, and then the houses, as I say, will either be there or in there. And the houses are the 12 main areas of our lives, based on the cycle of growth of a human. Okay. And I've just put over there again just the names. The first house, second house, third house, they're in the 4 quarters. And I just very, very simplified it into one word. I mean, if you study this stuff, you'll find many, many, many different slides and interpretations with lots of different descriptions of what each house is. But if you kind of boil it all down, you know, the first house is about the self and the second about value and so on. So I just put one word there so that you can get a feel for what these houses are. So that's the houses. And then the A of shape is what we call aspects. So you'll see these are the lines going across the center circle in your chart. And what they show is the angles between the planets at the time we were born. And I'm showing you my chart here as an example, okay? So these lines are showing us the angles between the planets and the main aspects. And we're only going to look at the main aspects today. They're called a conjunction, and this is the symbol. A sextile, that's the symbol for a sextile. This is a square, a trine, and an opposition. So a conjunction is when two planets are together. Like you can see, I've got these two here. We'll look at what they are in a second. And I've got these two, the sun and the moon, conjunct in my chart. A sextile is 60 degrees apart, like these ones. So from this is my ascendant to Mercury and Venus here, that's a 60 degrees, that's a sextile. A square is 90 degrees, so I've got a square here. And don't forget, each sign is 30 degrees. So a square is going to be 3 of those. So you can see those planets there. Look, you go 1, 2, 3, and then I've got these planets here. So that's a square there. And then a trine is 120 degrees, and that's what this one here is. So that's like 4 signs. So from here we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. So Saturn here is in a trine to my sun and moon, all right? And then an opposition is if you've got something directly across from each other, and then you'd have a line going right across. Luckily, I don't have any oppositions in my chart. So, but I've had a lot of opposition to what I'm doing in my life, I can assure you. So, yeah, there are some other planets that are not shown on this chart, but we're not going to look at those little things today. We're just going to focus on the main ones because we're going to go top down, right? So as each of these workshops, we're gradually zooming in and zooming in from the great year, you know, into the zodiac and now into our charts, and each time we're adding a bit more detail. So if you've got a cafe astrology chart, or an astro.com chart, which is Astrodienst, you'll see they got this like step pyramid table in there somewhere. And that shows you on a table what these lines are. So for example, I showed you that was that little green symbol there. That was the symbol for conjunction. And this is saying the sun, that's the sun symbol there. And this is the moon symbol. So it's saying in my sun and my moon are conjunct, and you can see that they're conjunct right there. So that table is a summary of what you've got in the chart. Okay, and then if we go to the next slide, the P of shape is the planets. You know, probably the most important part. So these are usually shown in the sky circle, and in between the Earth and the zodiac. You'll see all the planet symbols will be in this circle. And if you don't know what the planet symbols are, I've put the list there with the name of the planet and its symbol next to it. All right, so you can get a feel. But you'll also see that, as I said, you'll see the symbols here. And in this little table, look, you've got the symbol and then the name of the planet next to it. So the more you look at this, you'll soon get to know what the symbols represent. You know, and the thing is with astrology, the symbols really are the names of things. We don't really want to give words. You know, in the golden age, we probably don't need words. Because the symbol, it's like a picture can paint 1,000 words, right? A symbol is really a picture, and it represents things on many levels. But, you know, we have to try and put words to it, and we can end up with a lot of words to explain one symbol. So try and get to study, you know, and understand what the symbols are. So yeah, so those are the planets. And you'll see that I've put a line here because the planets out to Saturn are visible. So we can see those. And this is the 7-day week here of the Gregorian calendar, named after these planets. But as we can see, there are actually 10 planets because there's these 3 here that we can't see unless we got a telescope. So those are beyond our 5-sense reality. And this is why one of the main reasons I have a 10-day week called a decan in the universal celestial calendar, because there aren't 7 planets, there are 10. So if we're going to have a day for each planet, we need to have 10 days, not 7. And then we've got these other 2 important things called the lunar node. That's the lunar node of the moon. We're not going to get into that today, but just so you know what it is, it looks like a pair of headphones. And then often you'll see Chiron in your chart as well. Now I just want to show you this little black, look like a backwards question mark thing here. That's called Lilith. And you'll see that on some charts as well. And that is, you know, if we were going to put a 13th thing here, it would be Lilith for me, all right? But we're not going to get into Lilith today, so don't worry about that for now. We're just going to look at the main ones. But just so you know what it is. Okay. Now, the other 2 things we ought to mention in the chart are the ascendant, which is this, when you see an arrow over here at the 9 o'clock position, that's your ascendant. Because each day, the Earth rotates anti-clockwise, which gives the illusion that the sky goes clockwise. So things appear to rise, as we were saying last time in the last workshop, things appear to rise here in the east and set in the west, but that's because the Earth is spinning from west to east, okay? So it's a kind of an optical illusion. But our ascendant is the sign of the zodiac that was rising on the eastern horizon at the time of our birth, and that represents our self-image. So we need to mention that. Some people will call it a rising sign, some people call it ascendant, but it'll have ASC or AS. You can see on this one, it's got AC here, and then that's your ascendant. And then the other important one is this other arrow, which is your mid-heaven. So that represents the point at which the sun would reach its zenith on the day you were born. So that's the highest point that the sun would reach that day. So that's like the top of your chart. And that represents your public image. All right. So the ascendant's a self-image, and the midheaven is the public image. Now, why has it got MC? Well, that's Latin again. So it's medium coeli. I think it means like the middle of the sky. So if you see MC, it actually means midheaven, but it's basically the highest point of your chart. And why isn't the highest point in my chart actually at the top? It's because at the time I was born, this was the angle that the Earth was tilted. All right. So that's showing you, and you can look on this. If you can imagine, this is a sphere, right? If you can imagine that in 3D, you can almost see it coming out of the page at you, this globe, and that's the sky around the globe. Okay, so the planets, yeah, there's a table of the planets on Cafe Astrology charts and Astro.com charts, and they'll show you the name of the planet, the symbol. They'll show the symbol for the sign that it's in, and the degree of the sign it's in. All right. So you'll get used to seeing that. Now, I wanted to share this quote. I'm sure you've all heard it from Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. So I forget which play that's from, but the point I want to make is that we can think of astrology as and our birth chart as a kind of synopsis of a play that we're going to put on, okay, or a movie we're going to make about our life. All right. So if you think of the Globe Theatre where Shakespeare plays used to be put on, that's also round like a birth chart. And we might say this is the ascendant point here, you know. So that's quite interesting. And Shakespeare, really, all the plays that are attributed to Shakespeare all really came out at the end of Kali Yuga. So if you remember our first workshop with the Great Year, you know, when we got to the end of the darkest days, the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga, the time, the Age of Ignorance, this is when Shakespeare plays started to be put on. And to me, that's quite symbolic of, you know, there's a lot of kind of hidden esoteric wisdom in Shakespeare and a lot of allegory. And I think it's interesting that that started to come in right at the end of that period of history. But the main reason I'm talking about plays is because this is how we can think of all of these elements of shape. So let's run through this. It's a bit of a busy slide, but this is one you can take away and you've got it all on one sheet, if you like. So let's talk about the planets first. The planets, so they're like the what or the who is affecting this, okay? So if this is a play or a movie, these are like the actors that are featuring in our play or movie, all right? And those actors, they represent aspects of our own characters within ourselves, but in our life, they represent people in our lives as well, all right? So, you know, the sun has a character. Maybe we say the sun is Brad Pitt, all right? So Brad Pitt's always Brad Pitt, and he might be sun-like, so he might have a lot of motivation and a good connection and good energy. But depending what role he's playing, he's not always going to be purely motivated and purely fiery. He's going to be modified by the role he's playing. So the planets are the who and the what are affecting us. But then the sign that they're in is like how that energy is filtered. And so how that energy ends up acting upon us. So that's like the character and the role, the costume that the actor's playing and wearing, all right? So the planet has an inherent energy, but if it's playing a role in Gemini, it's going to be very inquisitive and will probably like to talk a lot, like me, and like to communicate and be intellectually curious, right? So if Brad Pitt was the sun, he's got all his motivation, but he's going to be motivated in Gemini by how he communicates and having people to talk to and to talk about deep things. And so you see what I'm saying? So he could play, if he was playing a role in Sagittarius over the other side over here, he would be an outward going adventurous type who loves philosophy and likes to expand his personal development and go on trips abroad and all this kind of stuff, you know? So the planet's energy is modified by the sign it's in. So you can think of the signs like windows that the planet's energy shines through. And each of those windows has a different quality of glass, and it changes the sort of energy that we receive. All right? So the planet's the actors, the signs are the characters and costumes that they're playing. And then the houses, they're the scenes and the settings that the actors are playing in our lives. So, you know, Brad Pitt, the sun, full of motivation. He's playing a Gemini kind of role. So he's intellectually curious and he loves communicating with people. And then the house, he's in the 11th house. So he's going to be well into networking with lots of people and sharing what he's learned with them and that kind of thing, because that's all 11th house stuff. And we're going to get to that. But I'm just giving you an example using my chart, okay? So the houses are the scenes, the areas of our lives that the action's taking place in. And then the aspects are like with who else are they playing? Who are they acting with in that scene? So, you know, Brad Pitt, the sun, he might be playing with Angelina Jolie, who's playing the moon, and the feminine emotional character. And you know, they're going to be They're going to be in a scene, maybe in, so say it was in the second house year, maybe they're going to be out in nature somewhere. They're going to be playing a scene in nature. Maybe it's a love scene. I don't know, we could start all fantasizing about that maybe, but probably not a good thing to do right now. So it's how they interact. Now, if Angelina and Brad were in opposition, if one of them was here and the other one's over here, maybe they're having an argument, you know, they're standing facing each other. And he's saying, well, I told you I was going to do the washing up, you know, and why'd you keep nagging me about it? And she's saying, yeah, but you know, I can't do it all myself. So they're having an opposition. And that's what the aspect is. And then the energy, the E of shape, the energy is all of that put together. So it's the energy of the planet modified by the energy of the sign in the energy of the scene it's being played in, also interacting with the energy of the other planets in the scene. All right. So I hope that kind of gives you a feel for how it all works. And then maybe before I go on, I just want to check in if there's any questions so far. But I hope that makes sense. And if we haven't got any questions, I'll crack on. Okay. So the other thing I realized with shape, it also spells phase. Okay. So if we put it planets, houses, aspects, signs, and energies, we can also use our birth charts with things called transits, which is where planets are now compared to where they were when we were born. We can see what's going on in this phase of our life or any phase of our life. So in any phase of our life, the planets are going to be in some part of the sky and they're going to be in some kind of aspect back to our natal position where they were when we were born. And that can tell us how we're being affected in that phase of our life. Okay. And then, okay, I'm really going to scrape the barrel with the wordplay now. So I'm now going to put them in this order because I'm very passionate. I have been called a nut many times, a bit of an astrology nut, but it's just that I'm very passionate about astrology. And the reason I've done this with this awful dad joke, you know, wordplay, pun, is because this is the order I want to present the different things to you in. All right, because this is the order that makes most sense. So we're going to get passionate, all right? Passionate about astrology. So we've got shape, phase, and passion, all right? And apologies to all the people who hate puns. So let's have a look at it. First, I'm going to look at the planets and the aspects, all right? So that's why they're highlighted. So let's have a look at the planets. And what I've done at the top, when I'm talking about something, I've just highlighted the part of shape we're looking at, okay? So yeah, the planets, these are the actors and the characters in the play of our life or our movie, okay? Now, what does planet mean? Well, if you look at etymology, basically, planet is actually described as a star other than a fixed star. So if you remember, last time we looked at the stars way outside the solar system, but all the planets are inside the solar system. So when we're talking about tropical astrology, as we are here, we're talking about planets. So these revolving in an orbit, okay? And it's from the Greek planetes, and it means a wandering star, okay? I was born under a wandering star. You may have heard that tune. Well, that's what a planet is, because our ancestors noticed that a lot of the stars all moved together, but some of them moved a lot quicker in different cycles, and they realized they were much closer to us. So in this description, the sun and the moon. So even the sun is classed as a planet, all right, because it moves. And even the north node of the moon, it's not actually an orb or anything. It's just a point in space, but it moves. So we can consider it as a planet, and it has an energy to it. All right, so that's where planet comes from. And these are the planets in our neighborhood. So these are the guys who are affecting us. And we go out in order. We go from the sun in the center here. First, we got Mercury, then Venus, then us and the moon, then Mars, then the asteroid belt, and the biggest orb there is Ceres. And you can also get that in your chart if you want. And we got Jupiter, the big daddy, the biggest planet, then Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, and then Pluto is a little dwarf planet much further out. Okay, but in astrology, Pluto is still classed as a planet, not a dwarf planet. So he's still one of the main ones because he's a feisty old geezer, is Pluto. A lot of power, a lot of intensity. All right, so that's the order we go in. And you can see here, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Again, 10 orbits. It's 9 orbits in the sun. So 10. We got a 10 again, not 7. All right. So I'm just going to run through this and put a bit more info on there for you. So these planets closer into the sun, they're called the personal planets because they move fast. So if you're born, even if you're born fairly close to another person, you're probably going to have your planets in different signs. Okay. Now, if we go out a bit, Jupiter and Saturn, they're called social planets because they're further out, so they move slower. So their cycles take longer. So if you're born, so Jupiter, for example, takes 12 years to go through the zodiac. So if you're born in the same 12-year period as someone else, you're going to probably have this Jupiter in the same sign of the zodiac, okay? Whereas all of these are going to move quicker. You're probably going to have them in different signs. And then Saturn, is 30 years. So if you're born in the same part of that 30-year cycle as someone else, you're going to probably have the same Saturn sign. And if you divide all the lengths of their cycles by 12, you can see how long they're in each sign. All right. Now, the furthest out planets are called the generational planets because they're so far out, they move very slowly. And so that someone of the same era in a whole generation would have the same planet in the same sign, right? So they would share that same energy. And this kind of explains the generation gap, because if you all share the same kind of energy from a certain era, you're not going to share that with someone who's much older or much younger. Okay, so let's just look at a bit of detail on there. So everything out to Saturn is visible with the naked eye from Earth. So this is the limit of our 5-sense reality perception of the solar system, okay? And this is why Saturn is about limitation and boundaries. And in Greek, he's known as Chronos, all right? And this is where we get chronology and chronological and all of these terms from, because it's all about time. They call Saturn the Grim Reaper and Old Father Time. That's personifications of Saturn energy. So it's like the boundary of the 5-sense world. And then these guys out here, we can't see them, to say, unless we have a telescope. Now, this is how long they take to go. So you can see here, look, obviously the Earth takes a year because that's how a year is defined, as one orbit around the sun, right? So the planets closer to the sun from Earth, they go round in less than a year. Mercury only takes one season, like about 90 days, 1/4 of a year. Venus takes about 260 days. And the Mayans follow that cycle in one of their calendars. Then we get to Mars and it's like 2 years, it's twice as much as Earth. And then 5 years here and 12 years for Jupiter, 30 for Saturn, 84 years for Uranus, and 165 for Neptune. Pluto's out around 245, 248. So the US of A, for example, is now having their Pluto return because the country was formed about 250 years ago. And now Pluto has come back to where it was when they started. And that's quite a momentous event. That's a definite change of an era, okay? And we can expect a lot of changes because of that, or, partly to do with that, let's say. All right. So you may have heard of a Saturn return. When you're about 30, you have a Saturn return. Saturn comes back to where it was when you were born. And it's a big energetic event in your life. And it's really the end of your youth and the start of your fully adult maturity. And that's often a good time after your Saturn return. It's a good time. If you're thinking of having kids, you kind of know yourself by then, hopefully, Okay, so why do the planets affect us? People who dismiss astrology say, well, how can the planets affect us? They're far away. Well, let's just take one example, Jupiter. It's the biggest planet. And it's nearly 800 million kilometers away from the sun. And it's pretty small compared to the sun. The sun is 1,000 times the mass of Jupiter. All right. But Jupiter pulls this massive star from its center here out to here. So that's called the barycenter. So actually the sun wobbles around this point because of the pull of Jupiter, because it's all in a vacuum, okay? So if that little planet can move this massive great star, obviously it's going to have some effect on us as well, because all the planets in our system all affect each other with their gravity. So it's like one body. It's like a body all dependent on the different parts of the body, right? So look, this is how big the sun is compared to Jupiter. That's Jupiter. And here's Earth down here, look. So these are the relative sizes of the planets compared to the sun. But this planet moves this 750,000 kilometers around in space. So, and we live on Earth. We're 27 million times smaller than Earth. Okay, 27 million. And here's Earth. Look, this tiny little thing here. So of course, for me, it just makes perfect sense scientifically that we're bound to be affected by gravity and things, even if we can't see it. Our bodies feel it, So this is the relative size of the planets. Here's Earth. So this is Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. We can probably say Mars used to be here between Mercury and Venus because it's quite small. It's a bit it's the odd one out in this thing because all the planets here get bigger up to Jupiter and then they get smaller again. And they say the solar system is like a body. Well, if you think of a human, we tend to grow to a peak, to our Jupiter stage. And then as we get into a really old age, we get smaller again. And I saw this in my father before he died. When I saw him the last time, he was pretty small compared to how he was. So that's a cycle as well. Now, I want to put the planets in a geocentric perspective, okay? So with our iPod, what we've done is we've swapped the sun being here with the Earth. So the Earth was there and we put it where the sun was and vice versa. Because this is the perspective of the planets from us, where we live on Earth. We don't have a heliocentric perspective. We have a geocentric one. So the fastest moving and closest planet to us is actually the moon, because that goes around us it actually goes on an average of 27.3 days. And the phase cycle with the sun is 29.5 days. Yeah. So as we go away from the Earth, these planets all move slower and slower and slower. All right. And these are the symbols for the planets here. Pluto's got 2. So you might see this one on your chart, or you might see that one, depending on what chart you got. And then I put the names underneath. All right. And then what I've done, by the way, I do workshops in each of the parts of shape. Well, each of the four, the signs, the houses, the aspects, and the planets, we can do a workshop just on the detail of those, depending how keen people are to get into it. But all I've done for now today is I've just put one word to sum up the main thing that each of the planets represent energetically for us in our lives, all right, and in our psychology. So the moon represents our emotional world and our emotional body. Mercury represents our mind and our intellect, which we use to communicate. Venus represents love. Venus is very hot. She's near the sun, and the temperature on Venus is very, very hot. So she's a hot, sexy woman. So she's all about love. The sun is where all life comes from, and it's very radiative. So that represents our motivation. And if we have a strong sun in our chart, we're going to be very self-motivated. Personally, I'm very self-motivated. I don't need someone to tell me to do anything. I just do it because I love it. And if I love it, I've been working on this all day since about 6 o'clock this morning, and I finished 5 minutes before we started. And I don't even feel tired, because very self-motivated. So you may find that as well. And this is what I was talking about in the post, bring your sun, motivation, and your drive of your Mars with you, because Mars represents your drive, your action. And of course, that's the symbol for the masculine, and Venus is the symbol for the feminine. And that's where they come from. Jupiter's the biggest planet. So he's all about expansion, because everything up to Jupiter gets bigger and bigger. So Jupiter's about expansion and growth, whereas Saturn is about restriction, because don't forget, Saturn's the furthest planet we can see, and it represents the boundary. So that's about restriction and boundaries. Uranus, or Uranus, as I prefer to call him these days, because the Uranus joke can wear off after about 10 years. You do get bored of that one eventually. Even I get bored of that one. So I do tend to use Uranus. And Uranus represents our individuality, what makes us unique and different. And I'll tell you why. So astronomically, when we think of astronomology, in astrology, Uranus represents individuality. And that's because in astronomy, Uranus rotates on its side. All the other planets rotate semi-upright, maybe with some kind of tilt. Saturn's got a tilt. But Uranus, actually, the North Pole is down here. So it's gone all the way over and past 90 degrees, and the pole is like this. This is the South Pole, and this is the North Pole. So he's very different. He does things his own way. Yeah? And the energy coming out from Uranus expresses that, and that's what we feel. So it's all about individuality. Neptune is all about depth. Neptune is the personification, is the god of the sea. It's called Poseidon in the Greek myths, yeah? So it's all about the deep waters. So the deep psyche, the deep emotions, the deep feelings, the deep connections to spirit and all of that kind of stuff. Because it's way out in space. It's the biggest planet that's furthest out, if you see what I mean. Because then when we get to Pluto is very small. Pluto is smaller than our moon, all right? But it's like way, way, way out. And Pluto's got a very elliptical orbit. So he's kind of a power-up planet whizzing around on doing his own thing as well. But he's about transformation, because he doesn't follow the same orbit as the others. So these are the qualities: emotion, intellect, love, motivation, drive. Those are the qualities of those actors. So, Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt, whatever role he's playing. But his Brad Pittness is modified by then the sign that he's in and the house he's playing in and the aspect he's in to others. All right. So that's just one word for each planet. So when you look in your charts, you can say, okay, that's the sun, that's my motivation. Jupiter, that's how I develop myself, how I expand my capabilities and stuff like that. All right. So to sum up the planets are what affect us. and it's from the Greek wanderers, so it includes the sun and the moon. It's they're the 5 visible orbs, but also the 3 not visible orbs. So 5 and 3 and 2, we get 10. And they're the actors that symbolize aspects of our nature and characters in our lives. And this is where we get the astro of Western tropical astrology, okay? The planets. They're all inside the solar system, so they're relatively close to the Earth, as opposed to the fixed stars, which are far outside the solar system. And those would be in the sidereal zodiac, okay? So that's the planets. Before we go on to aspects, any questions about planets? No? Good. Okay. Right. Now, this is where I would do an exercise. If you actually want to do the exercise right now, what we can do is we could pause the recording and you can do the exercise. So, you know, people aren't just waiting for us to finish the exercise while they're watching. Or we can leave that there and let you can do it after as a bit of homework to see how well you've understood what we're doing. And people watching it could also take that away and do it as a study offline. All right, but let me just show you what we would do with this now. So this exercise about planets, it's about, as I was saying at the start, how they can affect our consciousness and how we perceive the world. So what we would do is see how many planets we have in each quarter of our chart. So how many in the east, how many in the west, how many in the south. Don't forget that's at the top, and the north in the bottom. And then we use that to determine the balance of our perspectives of the self versus the world and our conscious or subconscious perspective, right? So our psychological energies. And how we would do that is by looking at this again. So we look at our chart and see where the planets are. And they'll be in one of these 4 quarters, all right? So I've just done the exercise with my chart. So if we look at my chart, if we look at, so the east over here, this side, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got 7 of the 10 main planets in the east, and that's about the self. So what that means is I look at things from a self perspective rather than a world perspective. If you've got a lot of planets over here, you're going to be more looking at the world. So how it works is, you know, I kind of say, this is me. Where will I fit in the world? Whereas if you've got a lot of planets on this side in the world perspective, you'd say, oh, there's the world. That's how it is. How can I go and fit into the world? You know, whereas I would say, no, this is who I am. And I want to find a place in the world. Yeah. So it's a different perspective. Now, if we look at the top and the bottom, 6 of my 10 planets are up in the top here in the light time. And that's all about conscious awareness because it's the daytime and the light is shining on those energies. So that's very front of mind conscious awareness. And I've only got 4 planets, 1, 2, 3, 4 here in the dark time, which represents the subconscious, the instinctive world. So if we put that together, you could sum me up as self-orientated in conscious awareness. And that's very much how I am. So when I first saw that, when I was studying astrology initially, I thought, oh, that makes sense. You know, that does, we haven't even looked at what the planets mean or do. We're just counting how many are in different parts of the chart. And that's already telling me something about myself, you know, psychologically, which is really interesting, I think.
Could you just summarize again, Litmus, what would it mean if you go back to the last slide, if somebody's got planets more in the north or more in the south?
Yeah, so don't forget the north is actually at the bottom because the North Pole's down here and we're looking south. So the south is actually in the top. I know it's a bit counterintuitive, but that's why we need our iPod, okay? So yeah, if you've got planets up in the top of the chart, that's the daytime because the sun rises here, goes up to the top and sets over there. So planets there mean you're in conscious awareness, and planets in the bottom mean you're in your subconscious inner world because they're in the darkness. Okay, so it's very symbolic. Does
But
that answer
conscious
your question?
awareness, sorry, but conscious awareness here means kind of interacting rather than like more extrovert than introvert, or I mean, subconscious instinctive, I understand, but what would it exactly mean if you were more conscious awareness?
Yeah, more sort of front of mind and figuring out things based on data that you're receiving and the particular circumstances that are going on, rather than maybe subconsciously not really thinking about it that much, but just acting instinctively. Yeah. So if you've got a lot of planets here, what the astrology would suggest is that you would be more likely to act instinctively to something that happened. Okay. Whereas if you got more up here, you would actually say, hang on, what's going on? You know, can you tell me what's happening? Can we get some data and like analyze the thing, and then we take some action, you know? And that's very much how I am, you know. People like that tend to be very good in a crisis because they don't get all lost in the, you know, if you're down in the instinctive subconscious, you can maybe just react with your reptilian brain more, say in a crisis, because you go into flight or fight. But if you've got more conscious awareness, you don't think about it emotionally, you just think of it rationally and analyze the situation. And I'm not saying I always do that, but you know, I'm just giving a rough example. So does that make sense? So you can do that with your own charts. Yes.
Can I just ask a question? So I'm not totally sure where I'd mark like north, south, east, west on my chart. Like, is it literally straight up and down in relation to the circle?
Yeah, straight up and down.
Okay, so work with the ascendant line is east-west.
This is the east over here, yeah, and over there is the west. Now some people do what they call equal house charts, because what you'll notice is this is tilted over, and the size of these houses they're all different. Well, 6 of them are different. If you've got the equal house chart, it's definitely straight up and down because they'll all be 30 degrees. But this chart is using a system called Placidus, which is based on time. All right, so it means you can have different size houses. So you may say in that example that you would take this to be the up-down axis, your midheaven, and then you're looking at this side from here to here, and then this would be the west. All right.
So the midheaven would be the MC or whatever. Is that north or south?
That's south, because this is basically we're in the northern hemisphere here, facing south. So over to our left is where the sun would come up, and over to our right. And obviously, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's all the other way around. That's why you definitely need your iPod then. But yeah, look. So I would look how many planets you got there, and how many you got there, and how many you got in the top and the bottom, and then just do some numbers on it, and it'll give you an idea, and then see if that makes sense to you. You know, do you agree with that analysis? You know, like I definitely agree with mine, but maybe you don't. You know, so I'd be interested to know what yours comes out as when you do it. You know.
Shall we pause it for a second so people watching this can do that task, and also we can do that task, and then we can ask any questions off of the recording?
I think that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm very happy to do that. You know, I can go all night, but just bear in mind, because I know you guys down south are in the morning, so that's cool. But where, you know, if you're in the evening where you are, you might start to get tired a bit later. So it just depends how long you want to go. But yeah, I'm very happy to go with a pause if you want.
Just a brief pause, if that's okay, so that we can just stop and look at our charts. That'll be great.
Yes. Yep. Let's do it. That was the plan. Yeah.
All right. So I will just pause for a sec. Okay, so we've checked our left, right, up, down on the charts.
All the directions. And we went through everyone's, but we saw that I've got a self-orientated in conscious awareness perspective of the world. So that's cool. All right, that was good. Thank you for your input there, guys. So let's get on to aspects, okay? We looked at planets. Now we want to get on to aspects. So these are the interactions between the actors in your movie or your play, okay? And these are the main aspects, all right? So if we imagine these are the 12 divisions of the year and the 12 houses and signs in your chart. If we have a planet here at 0 degrees, a conjunction is going to be another planet there. So the energies are working together. If we get to a sextile, they're separated by 2 signs, 60 degrees. So we get this kind of triangle. So then the energy is starting to come in from 2 different places. And then when we get to a square, it's coming a bit deeper in, like this. And then with the trine, it's deeper again, because it's a bigger gap. So it's affecting us more. And then with an opposition, it's cutting right through the heart of the core of our being. All right. So let's look at those. The main aspects, they divide into harder and softer. Now, conjunctions, squares, and oppositions, they're all stronger aspects, okay? But a conjunction is considered harmonious, 2 planets together, working together. But the square and the opposition are challenging in some way because there's conflict there, okay? And then the softer aspects are the sextile and the trine, because they're nice angles, 60 and 120 degrees. They're considered harmonious, but I put a little caveat here. Look, it is generally the case, but it depends on the planets involved, okay? So if you had Mars and Saturn, which are both considered malefic, more challenging energies, you know, it may not always be harmonious in a harmonious aspect. So it does depend, but generally this is the case, all right? So how does that work on the chart, all right? So I've just put that onto the ones we looked at before. So the conjunction is a harder aspect, but it's considered harmonious. So it's strong but harmonious. The trine is softer and harmonious, so it's a bit weaker, but it's nice. The square is strong and challenging, so you're going to know about that one. Then a trine it's not hard, it's more soft, but it's also harmonious. So, you know, your trine and your sextile are gentler and harmonious. But then your opposition, it's a tough one, and it's challenging. You know, you basically got a tug of war going on. You've got a planet over here, and you're in the middle, and then the other planet's over here, and you got this pull in 2 different directions, right? So I think of that like a tug of war, you know, and then one's pulling you this way and the other one's pulling you that way, and the energies are conflicting. All right, so those are the aspects. So what I want you to do, if we consider the aspects as the width, who the actors are working with and in what way, they're the angles the planets make to each other. So they're the interactions of the actors. And that interaction, again, modifies the core energy of the planet. Yeah. And some are harmonious, some are challenging, some are hard, and some are soft. So what we can do another little exercise now where we look at our charts, and just to get a feel of how much shit we got to deal with, we can look at how many hard and soft aspects we got and how many harmonious or challenging ones. And that can tell us, again, something about our psychology, okay? So maybe we do the same again, and we look at our charts, and just make a note of which are hard, which are soft, and which are harmonious and challenging. All right. Now, yeah. So let me just go back to my chat. So there, I would look at these lines and see what aspects I've got. All right. But the easiest way is, let me just find the one with the table on. Right. So what's probably easiest with your chat is if you look at this table, it makes it much easier for you. You can write down the conjunctions you've got, the sextiles, which are these little green stars, and then the squares, and the trines. So I got some trines there, look, the triangles, and then the oppositions. I don't actually have any oppositions, but you may have in yours. So you can just make a quick note of what you've got of each, and then it'll tell you what sort of conflicts or otherwise you've got going on from your birth energy in your chart. Okay. So while you're doing that, I'll just get back to my slide. And of course, if you've got any questions about that, let me know. So we're just doing this exercise here. Everyone know what they're doing?
Yeah,
Or
does
you wanna
the
ask?
does the slide show which symbol is a hard aspect or a soft aspect or a challenging one or a
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all you need to do. So if you go look at this one, this is the
that one's
conjunction.
probably better for us to
So,
look at while we
so
look.
if you look in your step pyramid table thing on your birth chart, look for these conjunctions, which is just a circle with a line, and see which ones of those you got. And then look, these are the sextiles.
And then maybe just before we stop the recording, while we all do that, the people watching this. So if they've got, for example, the sextile symbol, what are we looking for? Is that how many of them we've got, or if we've got them?
Yeah, so you can write down which planets you've got the aspect between from your table.
Okay.
And what aspect you've got. So this sextile symbol, if you look at it, if you imagine a circle around that, that's basically divided into 6, yeah? Because there's 6 parts of 60 degrees in a 360 circle. So the symbol is telling you what the angle is.
So if I just say quickly the triangle, which is the trine.
Yeah.
I've got
this one.
I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got loads of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them.
Well, that's good because they're soft harmonious aspects, all right? So those are energies working together.
And then if I look at just one of those, and it's between Mars and just to see what this would tell me. So it's between Mars and what's that symbol? Neptune. So if it's between Mars and Neptune, and I know that it's a soft, what would that tell me the planets, or is that later?
Yeah, so you've got a trine between Mars and Neptune. So that's basically your drive harmonizing with your psyche. So so you've got a lot of drive behind the depth of your psyche. That's what that would tell me. So you're a deep thinker. You've got a lot of motivation to study the inner workings of the mind. I mean, you're a bloody hypnotherapist. So you go, Mars is driving your desire to study the depths of the psyche. That's what that tells me. And it's a harmonious aspect. So it's a good energy. So you feel good doing it, and it gives you pleasure, and you share it with the world, right? So that's one good example straight away. And if you want to give me another one, or someone else wants to give me another one, we can do the same thing, you know?
Yeah, so for those watching as well, so this slide here, you can see how many of the harder aspects or the softer aspects you've got. And then you also need to go to the slide or have written down what the main one word is for each of the planets.
That's
and then
right.
you can see how they're interacting with each other.
That's right.
Fantastic.
So
maybe, sorry, so maybe I'll just pause for a moment and then we can
let me just show that slide then, look. So there's the slide. So
Perfect.
you can take a screenshot of that or something. So you got it there. So what Roberto was saying is he's got his Mars in a nice 120-degree aspect, a nice trine, a soft harmonious aspect with Neptune. And Neptune's all about depth. It's the depth of emotion, the depth of the psyche, the mind, the connection to higher self, and the depths of the higher creativity. So he's driven to study the depths of the mind in a very simplistic way. You know, just with these one words, you can quickly get a feel for what's going on.
Great.
Yeah, but if you want to pause it now, yeah, we can come back in a sec. Yeah.
Quick pause and then maybe just go back to the other slide as we pause it, because the people watching this will probably want to see the other slide.
Yeah. Okay.
As they're looking at their charts.
This one?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll pause it now.
Right. All right.
Okay, so we've just checked that. Maybe just quickly, I'll just add that Kathleen mentioned that when it's in opposition, it doesn't mean you've got problems in your life. It means that when there's opposition, that's actually something within your lifetime that's there for growth, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Roberto. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, our higher self chooses the incarnation so that we get the energy in the chat to help us go through those challenges, because that's how our soul develops, through the challenges and how we deal with the challenges and how we solve the problems and come out the other side. So yeah, absolutely. Just because you've got challenging aspects doesn't mean everything's bad, because you've asked for those lessons. And when you've gone through those challenges, you will be a stronger individual, and you'll have a lot of wisdom. You know, there are no mistakes in life. There are only learnings. You know, there's no mistakes. There's only learnings. And I'm not saying lesson, because lessons us. Okay, but that's one for the round table. So I don't start arguing with me about it, Robbie. Okay, so luckily he's on mute. But right, so yes, we finished up here on the aspects. So I hope you guys watching have all had a look at your aspects in your chats and have figured out all you had, soft and harmonious and challenging ones. Okay, so that was planets and aspects. Now with the shape, don't forget we're going through it in with passion. So we're doing planets and aspects. And now we're going to do signs and houses, the SH of Pash. So, because this is one of my passions. So let's get into this. Right. So the first thing to say about the signs and the houses is they correspond. So the 12 heavenly, if you like, celestial zodiac signs correspond to the 12 earthly houses of our lives. Because you know the houses are in the center circle of our chat. So they're divisions of our life on earth. And they correspond to the 12 zodiac signs of the year. Okay. So this is as above the signs, so below the houses. Yeah. So the way to think of this is the signs are the houses for the whole planet. So when there's some planetary conjunction or opposition or whatever going on in a sign, the whole world is going to share that energy. Yeah, depending on, and the energy will depend what signs are involved in the aspect between those two planets. So those two actors. So the signs are the houses of the whole planet, and the houses are like the signs for the individual. So as above, so below. So we collectively share the influences of the planets transiting the signs, but we individually feel that influence in the area of our lives represented by the house in our birth chart that the transit takes place in. Okay. So when there's like right now, we're in the middle of, well, coming to the end, but we're in an active conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus. Okay. So that's an expansion, Jupiter, of individuality, an expression of uniqueness and rebelliousness and nonconformity. All of those good things, which is how we change the world, right? So that's going on, and we all share that, and it's happening in Taurus. So we all share the Taurus conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus. But what you have to do is have a look in your chart, which degree of Jupiter that's in for you, and which house that's in, because then that's going to tell you what part of your life that energy is going to affect. All right. And that's how you can then start to work with the energies. Okay. So this is very interesting for me because a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is a cycle. So they only meet up once every 13 or 14 years. And so when I look back 13 or 14 years to the time that the last Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happened, it was in 2010 going into 2011. And the period when that happened, and don't forget, this is an expansion of freedom and individuality and uniqueness and nonconformity. During that time, I left Britain in my camper van and went on the road for what ended up 10 years playing music in the street and completely changed my life. And I was amazed when I looked, because I didn't know anything about astrology then. So when this conjunction has come around now, and I think, wow, I just did that, and I didn't have a clue, but I was really working with the energy, because at that time I was feeling very restless. I was like, I'm kind of fed up of being in this same place all the time, and I needed a new adventure and a challenge, and I had a lot of responsibility. And although there were people I loved that I didn't want to leave, the other things were stronger, So yeah, it's amazing. And now the current conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus is in my 10th house. And the 10th house is all about your life work and your legacy. And so what I've been doing is loads of workshops and interviews and sessions online about astrology and all this kind of stuff, and sharing what I've learned so far with all you guys, And that's exactly the energy that's supporting that at the moment. So So yeah, when you hear about a conjunction or an opposition, whatever it is, the sign that's going to be the same for everyone what the sign is in. But look at what house that's in for you. Okay. So I think the conjunction was at 20 degrees of Taurus. So if after this session, maybe you want to look where 20 degrees Taurus is in your chart and see which house that's in. And then when we're going to look at houses now, you'll be able to see what area of your life that represents. Right? So let's look at the signs. Yeah, so these are the characters and costumes that the actors wear. So remember from last time, these are the 12 signs. It's the tropical zodiac. It's the 12 months, we might call them, the 12 divisions of the year, and they're named after the 12 zodiac constellations of stars outside the solar system. All right, so we went through this, and they start with Aries, and they go all the way around this way, anti-clockwise to Pisces. And this is I don't want to do that. This is a Northern Hemisphere perspective, which I've got spring and summer, but, quarter one, quarter two, quarter three. So these are the signs. I need to get over here. And if you remember also, the sun moves up and below the equator between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn through that yearly cycle. So you can put the signs onto this sine wave above the Earth as well. And of course, that is what the universal celestial calendar is based on. So those 12 divisions in the calendar, pretty much within a day or so here and there, depending where we are in the leap year cycle, line up with the signs, the tropical signs. And then that's the sidereal zodiac signs. And then we've got the great year that we looked at in the first workshop. And that's all on the app. So you can play around with that. But right, let's get into the signs. Now, the 12 signs also go through the body. So again, as above, so below. So as in the cosmic solar system body in the sky, in the signs, so that manifests in our lives on Earth and our bodies below. So Aries goes with the head and the face, and Taurus goes with the neck, like the bull. And Gemini is the twins, you know, the double thing. So that's the arms and the lungs, the two things. And Cancer is the breast, and Leo is the heart, and so on. And you can go all the way through the body. So you can also look at where you've got planets in signs, what part of the body that may affect as well. All right, so what we got there? Where is? Yeah, so for example, my Saturn is in Aquarius, and I've had, so Aquarius, as you can see, is, we got Pisces in the feet here, and Aquarius is the lower legs, right? The calf muscles. Now, before I knew any of this, in my life, I've badly torn both of my calf muscles, and it pretty much exploded, like burst through 3 layers of muscle, and I couldn't walk for 6 weeks and all this kind of thing. So, you know, I would say now that's Saturn in Aquarius doing that, you know. So that's an interesting thing to look at as well. But let's have a look at the energies of the signs. So this is where you need a pen, all right, to write it down, because pen stands for polarity, element, and nature, all right? And these are the 3 components to the energies of the signs. So there's 2 polarities, positive and negative, which is like masculine and feminine, active, passive, and like yang and yin. There are 3 natures, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, also known as qualities or modalities, depending who you read. And there are 4 elements that I'm sure you're aware of: fire, earth, air, and water. And these are the colors that represent those elements in astrology, okay? So if we look at the polarities, they're very easy to follow, because we start with Aries, and Aries is positive, or a masculine sign, and then they just alternate as we go round. So you don't have to remember. All you have to remember is the order of the zodiac, and then you can always work this stuff out. So Aries is positive, Taurus is negative, and so on. So the positive, they're the more active energies, all right? So we associate that more with the masculine, outgoing, radiative energy of self-expression, like centrifugal. Imagine like a spin in a centrifuge or a roundabout. It's radiating outward energy. So it's more yang. And all the fire and air signs are positive. So Aries is a fire sign, and we're going to go through those. So on the negative, the more passive is associated with the feminine gender. And again, this isn't sexual gender, but it's the gender in sacred geometry and Hermeticism. And it's basically like the divine feminine and the sacred masculine we're talking about, okay? So that's more about an indrawing of energy and repression, centripetal force, receiving energy. So that's more yin, and all the earth and water signs are negative, all right? And it doesn't mean negative bad and positive good, all right? It means these things. So those are the polarities, and they alternate around the zodiac. Then we got 3 natures, and they're called cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And these are their symbols. You won't often see these symbols used, but I'm just putting them there so if you do see them, you know what they are. All right. And this is how it works. So the cardinal signs are all the first sign of each season. So for example, Aries here, it's the first month of the year and the first month of spring. That's a cardinal sign. And then the first month of summer, Cancer, is cardinal. And the first month of autumn. And of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's the other way round. But they're still the cardinal sign. They're the first one of each quarter. All right. So then you've got the other one there is Capricorn. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, cardinal signs. So they start. That's about starting energy, starting new things. The fixed signs are the middle month of each season, and the mutable signs are the last month of each season. All right, so work begins in the cardinal sign, it carries on in the fixed sign, and it comes to some adaptation in the mutable sign, right? And then you've got the symbols there, which tell you which is which. So if we look at an example, if we think of water in its initial cardinal state is liquid, okay? But if we take heat out of it, it becomes fixed, it becomes ice. So the fixed expression of water is ice, whilst the cardinal expression is liquid. And then if we add heat, we'll end up eventually with steam. And that's very mutable, because it's very airy now and it's floating off into the air. It's very more disparate and translucent. And that symbolizes a mutable energy. All right, so that's how water would express in those three modalities. So those energies give a certain quality to these signs. So all the cardinal signs, first month of each season, that's about taking the initiative, being dynamic, action-orientated, tackling obstacles directly, head-on, good at crisis management, but sometimes has difficulty following through, right? So once you've started something in a cardinal energy, if you've got someone with cardinal energy, you start work there, then you give it to a fixed sign to carry it on. They can be much more steadfast, which can manifest more negatively as stubbornness. But the good thing is they never give up, you know? So it's about organizing and then tackling the problems slowly and steadily, sometimes getting stuck in them. They're not good at initiating things, but they're really good at following through and getting stuff done, okay? And then the mutable signs, the last month of each season, that's all about being adaptable and versatile and changeable, because the energy then is changing from one season to the next. So my sign, my sun sign, for example, Gemini, that's the last month of spring, when the energy is changing from spring to summer. And if you have this kind of energy, you tend to like change. You like the feeling of change coming, and you're versatile and adaptable, and you almost crave change, you know, and the more planets you got in those signs, the more you're going to crave change. So we would like to tackle things with communication, but we can get easily distracted, okay? Because we're so curious. It's like, oh, there's something new coming along. I'm going to do that instead, you know? So we tend to tackle problems by going around them rather than tackling them head on. Whereas the cardinal energy would just like tackle it head on. But we're good at negotiating with mutable energy, or more negatively by just avoiding the issue, okay? So those are the qualities of cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And this is a nice little example. So if we think of it like this, cardinal at the top, mutable at the bottom, this is tapered. So the need for variety in your life is weak for a cardinal sign, but it's really strong for a mutable. So I've got a lot of mutable energy in my chart, and I have a strong need for variety. If I don't have variety, I get very miserable, and I'd never get bored because I make sure I have variety. But if I didn't have variety, I would get very bored and depressed and miserable. But it also makes me very weak at committing to things because I like change. So I don't want to be doing the same thing all the time. Whereas with the cardinal, as you go this way, you get stronger commitment and less need for change. All right. So that's the way that sort of energy tends to express itself. Now, if we look at the elements, we've got the 4 classic elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And they go round the zodiac like this. So fire is the first element. So Aries is a fire sign. Then we have the next one is earth, Taurus. And then Gemini is an air sign, the yellow. And then the blue, water, Cancer. And then when you get to the end, you start again. So again, you don't have to remember what all the signs are. You can just, as long as you know the order, you can work it out. Because there's 4 elements, and you just go fire, earth, air, water, then you start again. And what you get is these 4 equilateral triangles. So therefore, trines. Okay? So this is one of the reasons a trine is harmonious aspect, because if you've got a planet in Aries, if you've got another planet in Leo, it's probably going to be in a nice aspect because they share the same fire energy and so on. So you can do that with the whole thing. So those are the elements. And then this is the hierarchy of the elements. So the most dense element is earth, obviously. And then the water sits on the earth. So that's less dense than the earth. And these are both negative because they're on the earth. And then as we get up off the earth, we come to air. So now we're going more positive. And you can see that these 2 triangles point upwards. So that's the masculine upward pointing energy. And these point down. So this is the downward feminine energy. And then the highest element in the hierarchy is fire. So it's no surprise that when I meet people and I ask them about astrology and spirituality and more esoteric metaphysical stuff, I find that a lot of air and fire signs are very open to that concept. And I typically find water and earth signs are less likely, and they're more into more practical, down-to-earth things. And that's just a simple example. So down here is more physical and more dense. And up here is more spiritual and less dense. And we're born into Earth, and one of our challenges in life is to ascend the hierarchy of elements and to go through all of them and to balance ourselves so that we experience all the qualities of all of them. Now, again, if we think of an example in science, because don't forget astronomology, we're looking at science and spirituality. So earth element, that would be a solid in science. Water obviously is a liquid. A gas would be an example of an air element. And then plasma would be the fire element. Okay, so that's how it goes like that. And then this is how those elements modify the energy of planets. So if you've got a planet in an earth sign, the planetary energies express themselves with earth signs through practicality, depth, and stability. So the earth energy seeks to stabilize and crystallize and nurture the planetary energy, whatever that is, manifesting through it, okay? So if it was the sun, the motivation in earth sign would be a desire for practicality, practical, tangible things, and earthy depth and stableness, stability, not all moving around all the time. Whereas with water, the planetary energy is modified in an emotional sense. So that's through emotional energy. And what that does is the water element gives the planetary energy sensitivity, and it makes it more resourceful and inspirational. Okay. And then with air, the planetary energy is modified through communication and human interaction. And what the air element serves to do is to connect people and disseminate information and to spark intellectual movement in the planetary energy. So if you've got your sun in an air sign, your motivation is going to be to connect people, to connect with people, to disseminate information, to spark people into intellectual curiosity. And that's kind of what I do. I identify with that, because I have 4 planets in Gemini, which is all about communication. It's an air sign. And then if you've got planets in fire signs, the planetary energy is going to be modified in terms of dynamic creativity. And what the fire element does is it serves to stimulate, project the planetary energies that manifest through it. So it stimulates creativity. Okay, and all of that's from Alan Oken's book, Complete Astrology. If you want to check it out, it's on there, page 284. All right, so that's how the elements modify planetary energies. And then we end up with this combination of polarity, nature, and element. So Aries is a positive cardinal fire sign, and that's unique. Those 3 combinations, each sign is unique, is a unique composite combination of the polarity, the nature, and the element. And this is what makes each of the signs have their unique energy. Okay, so this is one you can refer back to when you're looking at planets that you have in signs, so you know the polarity and the nature and the element that's affecting the planetary energy. All right. Now, we haven't got time to go into detail on all of these, but as you know, there are 3 signs for each season. So from a Northern Hemisphere's perspective, these are the signs of spring: Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So if we just take an example, Aries energy manifests as I seek myself. So it's all about the self. All right. It's typically courageous and bold, inspirational, intuitive, and perceptive, all these things. But those slides, we can pause those when we watch back and you can go through them in detail, but we haven't got time to go through them more in detail now. But Taurus would seek myself through what I have. And Gemini I seek myself through what I think about it. And then if we look at the summer signs, the summer months, Cancer, I seek myself through how I feel. And Leo, I seek myself through what I create. Virgo, I seek myself through what I learn. Okay? Libra, I seek myself through how I unite. Scorpio is through what I desire. I learn about myself through my desire nature. With Sagittarius, I seek myself, therefore I am. I'm a philosopher. Okay, I'm an existentialist. And then with the winter months, Capricorn seeks itself through what it uses. So Capricorn energy is typically very good at making the best of the resources it finds around itself for practical purposes. Aquarius seeks itself through humanity, through networking and sharing with others in groups. It's all about social things and brotherhood. And Pisces seeks itself through, I seek myself and I don't seek myself. So Pisces looks at both sides of it and looks at all aspects. And it's very unselfish and it's got a very deep, don't forget it's about depth. So it's about a deep imagination and very, very much into spiritual stuff. So if you had a lot of planets in Pisces or aspects with Piscean energy, you probably find that a lot of these things will apply to you. But what I've done, because there's a lot on there, I'm going to show you a slide in a minute. This is a summary. But basically, the signs are how the planets affect us, as we've said. So they're the characters and costumes. They're the 12 tropical zodiac signs on the sun's annual journey of the year. So it's a 12-month year in a seasonal solar calendar. And there are 4 divisions divided by the equinoxes and solstices, and we get 3 signs or months per season, and they're each 30 degrees. And we can also think of them as like 12 energy character windows that the planet's energies is coming through, and the window modifies the energy in the way we've looked at. But they really represent our desire nature, so how we feel about things, what our passions and emotions are. And personal consciousness, so experience through the senses in the ways that we looked at for each sign, okay? And then with the signs now, I've got another little exercise where we look at which signs our planets are in, and then we try to get a feel for how the planetary energies that we looked at earlier are modified by the sign energies. So this is how the actors' qualities are influenced by the roles they're playing, the costumes they're wearing, all right? So we can do that one again, or if we're getting, I mean, it's, well, we didn't start on time, right? But what did we start about 9:30? I think we're already 2 hours, right? So, you know, it depends. I'm obviously happy to go carry on if you guys are.
What I would really like you to do is, could you show your chart and show us how to do this on your chart? Because it's so much information that I wouldn't even know where to start at this point.
Okay. Yeah, let me get my chart back here. Right. So here's my chart, and here are the signs in the outer circle, yeah? So what I would do, I would start, I mean, you can start with wherever you want, really, but I would probably start with the sun. And I say, right, look, the sun is in Gemini, and the moon is in Gemini. So my motivation is modified by the desire to communicate. My emotions are affected by the desire to communicate and think and intellectualize, which they very much are. I've also got Venus and Mercury. Now, and Mercury is the planet of the intellect in the sign of the intellect. So very intellectual and very deep into studying things in depth and all that. And Venus, how I love is through great conversation. You know, I fall in love with people when we talk about philosophy. I don't fall in love with people who talk about football and the weather, you know. I fall in love with people who want to talk some deep shit, you know. That's what I get off on. So I'll typically find if I develop feelings of love for someone, it's because we have great conversation. You know, wow, she gives good conversation, you know what I'm saying? It's like that kind of thing. So what you can do with your chat, just look at and don't forget, you've also got the table anyway. You've got a table there which tells you what sign all your planets are in. So you can quickly do a summary. But what you can see is, you know, how many air signs you've got using these slides, and how many water signs, and how many earth signs and fire signs. And then you can get a feel for what your domination of energy in your psychology is, okay? You can look at the polarities and whether you've got more fixed energy or more cardinal energy. If you've got planets in the cardinal signs like Aries and Cancer and Libra and Capricorn, that's going to be starting new things energy. So like Jupiter, I've got Jupiter, look here, in Aries. Now Jupiter is the planet of expansion, and Aries is the sign of the self. So that gives me the energy of expanding myself, self-expansion, which is what I do. And it's initiating energy, because it's a cardinal sign. So, yeah, I love to start new projects, especially ones which are about Jupiter things like philosophy and, metaphysical studies and stuff. So what I'm saying to do is to look at the signs that your planets are in, take those keywords that we had for each planet as the quality of the energy of the planet, and then modify it with the quality of the energy of the sign. Right? So looking at those 3 slides I just went through.
Yeah, there was one that was like a summary slide, wasn't there? That had like everything in one.
Yeah. Yeah, there was. I don't know where that's gone, actually.
That one. It was that one, wasn't it?
That one, yeah, that one, yeah. So basically, if you look at the slide, and what I'll do, I'll share these slides after the presentation, right? So that you can just look at the slide when you're offline. So you can take the one-word description of the planets sign from back up here. I don't remember exactly where it was now. Just here somewhere. Yeah, here. So you can take this slide. So where you've got the one word that summarizes the planetary energy, and then you can filter it through the one we just looked at. This one. So you can filter that through this.
Is it not through the next one?
Hmm?
If you go to the next slide that's like a circle, that one, isn't that one got everything in it?
Yeah, well, that's got all the qualities, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you can look
you
at,
need to know what they are, do you?
you can look at how the energy expresses through the elements here. This is the elements. Yeah, and you've got the summary of their, for each sign, whether it's positive, and what its nature and element is. But to do that fully, you're going to need that one for the elements. And then you're going to need this one for the natures. And this one for the polarities, all right? So what I'll do, I'll share those 3 slides afterwards, and then we can do that exercise offline, okay?
Sure.
How's that?
Sounds good. I'll just pause it for a second now, just to see if anyone's got any questions.
All right. So use the slide that's got the one-word description of the energy of the planets, and filter it through the 3 slides that summarize the energy of the signs, the polarity, the nature, and the element. All right. And then you can get a feel for how much starting new things energy you've got, or how much carrying things on energy you've got, or how much you love change and flexibility and adaptability. So that's a great exercise to do. I did that when I first started looking at astrology, and it's amazing, what it reveals just with a few words. It's amazing. So yeah, let's do that offline. And then depending on the time, we may have to split this into 2 parts. But let's see how we go. We're now getting to where we're just going to look at the houses. All right. And then we can probably, depending on how everyone's feeling, we can wrap it up and do the other stuff in another session or something. But so let's look at the houses. Yeah, sorry.
Can I just jump in quickly and say that people would honestly, like, people do pay thousands upon thousands upon thousands, like to do level 3 with Deborah Silverman, like it's like nearly 10 grand or whatever. And you're just teaching us this in a workshop litmus. So I just wanted to bring this in of how profound it is, these teachings, and how deep you've gone with everything. I really want to witness you for that, because literally people spend tens of thousands of dollars to learn this shit that they probably can't even learn because they haven't spent their life's work learning and uncovering everything that you teach. So just wanted to bring that in.
Thank you.
While you're
It's made me very emotional.
composing yourself, I also just want to say that I'm really impressed, like amazed by this presentation. So thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
I gotta chime in. Thank you for putting the puzzle pieces together, because I've studied, I'm sitting here with my chart that I created. You can barely see it on here, but the chart that I created, and I did this probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I was studying on my own. And like, you brought it together inside of the 3 presentations that you did so beautifully and so eloquently.
Thank you.
And like, I can go back to these as being able to really understand what's taking place.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've got very emotional because I really do believe that information should be freely shared, with everyone, and people shouldn't make loads of money out of this stuff, because it's for everyone. It's in the sky. It's the bloody planets, and it's the earth, and it's nature. No one owns it, So I want everyone to know this stuff, I want kids to know this stuff, so they grow up knowing themselves, and respecting each other for their differences and celebrating their differences, So yeah, no, I'm really touched by your comments, guys. So makes it all worthwhile, And I would do this for free all day, every day, everywhere, wherever anyone wants to take me in the world. I'll go anywhere and do that. I'll do it on a boat on the river in Africa, or, whatever. I don't care where it is. I just love it. So I'm glad that really comes across. Thank you.
And you said you told me, I think today or yesterday, that, this is your calling, or a calling that you're on a mission to share this information as well.
It's part of my life mission, it's my 10th house. It's my legacy. When I'm gone, I want these videos and all these slides and everything to be there forever, so that people can get it for free and they don't have to pay someone 10 grand or whatever it is to learn about their own nature, We can all learn it ourselves. Yeah, so great, really great. And I've just got so much energy. I could stay up all night doing this, no problem. So yeah, thank you very much. So should we do a bit more? Actually, one of the reasons I'm doing all this as well is that I met astrologers at festivals I was playing or presenting at, and I asked them, how does astrology work? And a lot of them couldn't tell me, so I was like, well, but why is Gemini in their sign? And what does that mean, And so, yeah, it's important we share this stuff. Right. So let's get on to the houses. These are the settings and the scenes in our play of life. So it is a very simple chart again, just to show this is how they go. So in your chart, this, as we said, this is your ascendant here, and your ascendant marks the start of the houses, and it's the start of the first house. And then just is 3 per quarter all the way round. And everything below the horizon, what can't be seen, represents your inner world. And everything above the horizon that can be seen, it represents you in the outer world. So all of these inner world things in these houses express in the outer world, and they express in poo. The zodiac is made of poo, pairs of opposites. All right, it's one of my favorites. So me and Rabito are an example of poo, because my sun is in Gemini and his sun is in Sagittarius. Now Gemini is the 3rd sign, so that corresponds to the 3rd house. And Rabito's sun is in Sagittarius, which is the 9th sign, and that corresponds with the 9th house. So we are a pair of opposites. So opposites balance each other. So the things that one is not good at, the other one is good at, and so on. In a very simplistic way, you have to look at your whole chart, but if you just took a sun as an example, you may find that that's valid. All right. So those are the 12 houses. And they have 3 energies as well. So now we're going to look at the 3 energies of the houses. And if you want to know what the qualities are, you just got to ask. All right. Because they're angular, succeedent, and cadent, which is ask. Right. So there's another little acronym for you to sort of remember this stuff. But what does all that mean? So the angular houses, these are the action houses. So this is like the 1st house and the 4th house and the 10th house and the sorry, I missed one, didn't I? The 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th. All right. So this is where we get things going. So these correspond to the cardinal signs, yeah? The starting energy signs, because these houses are the 1st house of each quarter again, so they go with the cardinal signs. So they're the leading house of each quarter. Then the succeedent ones, that's where we take the work that started in the angular house and we get into the work and we carry it on. And those correspond to the fixed signs. So I put the fixed signs here, like, and on the other one, these are the cardinal signs that go with the angular houses. These are the fixed signs that go with the succeedent houses. And these are all the middle house of each quarter, go with the fixed signs. And then the last one is the cadent. So this is how we adapt to the action and work of the angular and the succeedent houses, okay? So these correspond to the mutable signs. So they're the last house of each quarter, all right? And this is kind of the strength of each of these. So the angular houses are very strong, the ones that go with the cardinal signs. So the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th. And then the fixed ones, the succeedent, they're not quite as loud and strong as the angular ones. So that's the 2nd, and the 5th, and the 8th, and the 11th, okay? And then the cadent ones are the least kind of noisy. And those are the 3rd, and the 6th, and the 9th, and the 12th, okay? And then this is a good slide to hang on to for reference, because this is the 12 houses and how they are represented in the quadrants that they're in. All right, so these first 3 houses, this is all about the self and the value attached to the self and the immediate environment that you grow up in. So this is all about your personal identity in this quadrant. So if you've got planets here in these houses, this affects your personal identity, how you want to be seen in the world. And then this quadrant here is about how you express that identity. So this is all about your home and your family, your creativity, and work and service and health. So that's how you express. And then these are your inner world houses, and then you go up into the light. And the 7th house goes with the 1st house. So whereas the 1st house is all about yourself, the 7th house opposite is about your committed partner, your main relationship. And whereas this 2nd house here was about your money and your value, this one opposite is about the shared resources from your partnership. And they go like that in opposite pairs, okay? Poo. So this quarter here, this is about your social identity. And then the last quarter over here is your social expression. So here we got the, personal and social expression. And here we've got personal and social identity. So, this, I love it because this is all, there was a guy called Ptolemy back in the 2nd century in the Gregorian slavery system that really put all this, he took all this ancient knowledge and he summarized it and wrote it all down in a thing called the Tetrabiblios, I think it's called. And it's so, I love that guy. Like, thank you, Ptolemy, for doing that work, because we still benefit from that. Because, the library, as we saw in the Great Year Workshop, the Library of Alexandria was razed to the ground by Julius Caesar so he could keep all the knowledge for himself, But because of people like Ptolemy, we still have it. And this is a beautiful system, whichever way you look at it, it all balances. And it shows us how to balance our life. So that's a good slide to keep for the houses. I've done that thing again now with my mouse. Right. So again, the houses in one word. All right. So I've given you a one word for the planets, and I've given you a one word for the signs, and now I'm giving you one word for the houses. So if you only want to remember one word, these are the words that I use. So house 1 is self. House 2 is value. So that's money and stuff, but also values, the things you value and your morals and your ethics and stuff. House 3 is about how you communicate. House 4 is where you come from, your roots, your origin. So that's home and family stuff. 5 is creativity. So when you start drawing and painting and making music and learning to play guitar and all that stuff. Because this is the cycle of growth. You're a baby here, and then you're going through life is this way. So house 6 is about service. Maybe you get your first job as a waiter or a waitress, or in a doctor's receptionist or whatever it is, paper round, and you learn about serving others. So house 6 is about that. Also about health, but that's, if you want one word, is service. The one word for house 7 is partners. Transformation in house 8, philosophy in house 9, and your life's work and legacy from your life's work is house 10. Sharing your legacy and your house work, your life's work with others is in house 11. Now, I came up with this. I haven't seen anywhere else this house called sharing, but to me, that's what it's all about. And that's what I'm doing now. And I've got 4 planets in house 11. So I love sharing everything. When I got money, I used to buy everyone drinks or whatever, I just love sharing. So, and house 12 is all about the deep stuff, the psyche stuff. All right. So if you want one word, that's the one. So I think that's the houses. So again, they're the settings and the scenes. The 12 houses correspond to the 12 signs. They follow the stages of life in the cycle of growth, from a baby from life, birth and death, all the way around. And each house represents a stage of our nurture as we grow. And therefore they represent the main areas of our lives. So this is the where of astrology. The planets are the who or the what. Yeah, and the aspects are who with. And the signs are how they're affecting us. And the houses is where in our lives they're affecting us. And just to say, the charts I've showed you, my chart is using a system called Placidus. Don't worry what that is. It's named after a monk who wrote it down. But it's actually a time-based system. So the sizes vary, but there is also an equal house system. And if you get a chart for that, you'll see they're all 30 degrees like the zodiac. So just to cover that in case you get a different chart. But the houses are the where, all right? So that's it on the houses. And then if we put the houses onto our summary, we've now got everything on one chart. So hang on to this one as well. Take a screenshot of that one. I'll just move my mouse out of the way if you want to do a screenshot. Yeah, and then you've got everything there. You've got you've got the sign and the house and all the polarities and the symbols and the elements and the natures. So that's a good one. And then have a look where all your planets are in your chart and see which energies you got going on. And then you get a good picture of what you were born into and what you asked for. So here's your houses exercise. Identify which houses your planets are in to determine the strength of the areas of your life. So which house is the strongest? You know, I've got, like I say, 4 planets in my 11th house. So that makes my 11th house very dominant.
Could you do the same as last time? Just go to your own birth chart and show us an example.
Yeah, sure. It's very sensitive, this mouse. Hang on, let's do it this way.
I don't know about Enolia and Kathleen, but it really helps me when you just kind of show me.
Yeah, sure.
On a chart.
Okay. So here are my houses. Here's my ass. Can everyone see my ass?
Yep.
Amazing, considering I'm facing this way. So this is the first house. From there to the 2. This on Cafe Astrology charts, they use Roman numerals for the houses. All right, and then you've got a mark on the zodiac there where the house ends. So from that degree of Leo to this degree of Leo is my first house. So I haven't got any planets in that one. But look, here's my first planet, Uranus, is in my 2nd house there.
Why is Ass the first house?
Because your rising sign, your ascendant, marks the start of your life. This is your birth point on your chart. All right. So the house cycles from this point around this way. All right. Always. So the houses never change orientation. They're always in this position. It's fixed at birth. So your houses will always be like this for the whole of your life. But the zodiac and all the planets keep moving this way, actually. Okay, they go through, as we saw, if you remember the stellarium, when we did the sine wave, going through the year, everything goes from right to left, yeah? And all the older languages, from right to left. So time actually goes from right to left, not the way we in the West have been conditioned to think it goes from left to right. You know, we've been told all the thing upside down and back to front to confuse us, so we can't connect and find our enlightenment, right? In my view. So, yeah, go through your houses. I've got nothing in house 1, but I've got 3 planets in house 2, Uranus, Pluto, and Mars. And those are in Virgo. So guess what? I love organizing stuff. I mean, and right now, I know from using my calendar that all of these planets are activated right now by the sun. So I've had a strong desire recently to do spring cleaning, sort out cupboards, tidy things up, chuck out junk, and I can't stop, you know. I'm in the middle of doing my slides today, and then I'm tidying out a drawer in the kitchen. I'm like, why am I doing this? I want to do my slides. But it's like, that's the energy that's been activated. So that's house 2. That's about money and values. So you'll get a focus on your values and things you value when those planets are activated in that house. Then this is house 3. I haven't got any planets there, but I've got Neptune in my 4th house. And my 4th house is about home and family. So I have a depth, Neptune, a deep emotional feeling about issues from my childhood and home and family. And that is definitely what happened. I've got nothing in house 5 here and nothing in house 6. I mean, in terms of planets, but then I've got Saturn here in my 7th house, as you can see, is very small. So not surprisingly, I was only married once and it came to an end, and I will never get married again. I don't believe in marriage as an institution. But with Saturn in the 7th house, that's a challenge in energy to your relationships. which is definitely what I experienced. So then in house 8, I don't have a planet, and nor in house 9, but Jupiter is just, it's right on my midheaven, which basically gives me a massive expansion of energy to follow my life's work and mission and my legacy, which is definitely what is happening. So Jupiter is in my 10th house. And then here I've got these 4 planets all in my 11th house in Gemini. And that's the house of sharing, the 11th house. So I love to share because I've got a lot of energy in the sharing house. So I love to share my motivation. I share emotionally how I feel and what I'm thinking about how I feel with my friends. I love communicating, Venus in Gemini. I love communicating. I love thinking deeply about things. And I love sharing. And that's Venus in the 11th house. And then I've got Mercury in the 11th house as well. So I'm very intellectually curious. And I love to share all the things like this presentation I'm sharing for free from all my intellectual curiosity of digging deep into this subject so I can share it with the world, you know. So that's all 11th house stuff. And then I don't have a planet in house 12, but I do have this line here is my north node and my moon. And that's about your soul mission, your main soul mission. So my main soul mission is to do with Cancer, which is about sensitivity and emotions and home and family. So it's about resolving issues, emotional issues with home and family. And here we go. So that's an example from my chart.
If you just go to the 11th house a minute. So the house is sharing.
Yeah.
And then the planets are
the sun.
Yeah, kind of tells you. Let me just
motivation
again. So yeah, sun is motivation. So it's connected with sharing, motivation to share.
Exactly, motivation to share.
But how does that fit with the Gemini? That's what I can't. How does the Gemini fit with the sharing with the house?
So then you need to look at your other slide with your one word for Gemini, you know. But Gemini is all about communication,
right?
And
sharing,
the mind,
communication.
Yeah, it's basically, if you wanted to sum that up, it's a motivation to share through communication. There you go, very simple. But you can pay an astrologer €60 for an hour just to tell you that. You know? Having said that, if you get a good astrology, it is definitely worth doing. Because I've had a reading from a good astrologer with 40 years experience, and it absolutely blew me away. And I get emotionally when I think about it. I'm just like, it was so good, you know. I was crying and laughing and everything. So yeah, and the same with the moon, you know, emotion. I love to share my emotions and communicate how I feel with, like, my housemate. Pretty much all we do when we meet up is talk about how we're feeling about what's going on. You know, that's my moon in Gemini in the 11th house. And I love Venus, I love sharing, the 11th house, and I love communicating, Gemini.
Kathleen shared in the chat, she put Gemini is the wordsmith too, which is very you, Litmus.
It is, isn't it, right? I love playing with words, yeah. And that's on my slides right at the start about the things my skills and the things I've studied. Yeah, she's absolutely right. But Oboe One Kanobo is really tuned in on this stuff as well, you know. So yeah, you're dead right, Kath.
And
I am a bit of a wordsmith. I mean, I've only written about 450 songs and poems, so yeah, not much, you know. Yeah. So there we go. Anything else on that before I just go back to the end of the houses thing?
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
All right. So you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah.
So please do these exercises offline. And when you do them, if you've got any questions, just drop me a message in Telegram or whatever, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. All right.
Can we go back to the exercise slide?
Yep, gonna do that now. Right, there we go. So that's the houses exercise. And again, you can just take a screenshot of that if you want, so you know what you're doing when it's over and you don't have to go through all the presentation again.
So I don't know how much is left to go, but maybe we could stop here. And
let me tell you.
Or if you
go on,
can you just go back to the one word planet slide, so that we can grab a screenshot of it? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all, Anolia, it's fine. So that's this one, I think. Yeah. So take a screenshot of that one. I can't make it bigger for you, but there's your one word planet energies. Now I tell you what, if you want, you can also take a screen. Oh, hang on. Is it that? No, it's not in this presentation. I've got another slide with all the depth of each planet on it, but that's for another presentation. Luckily, I did take it out of this one, so I wouldn't be tempted to go through it all. Yeah, so there we go. Have you got that one?
Yes.
Yeah, right. And do you want to do the same with the signs ones and stuff? And the aspects? Did you get the aspects one? Maybe you want to take a shot of that one for the aspects, or you're all happy with that one?
For me personally, I'm going to watch this video back and take screenshots.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then for the signs, you want a screenshot of that one. For the polarities. And this one for the natures of the signs. And then you want this one for the elements. And then it's probably good to take, I mean, you're welcome, you can take screenshots of all those when you go through, can you? But it's also worth taking a shot of that one, I would say. I love that one. I didn't do that, just for the record. That's something I found online, but it didn't say who did it, or I would love to give credit to whoever did that, but I couldn't find it anyway. So if anyone's watching who actually did that, please get in touch and I'll put your name and everything on there. Because I love that slide. It tells you so much. It's good work. Yeah, and maybe that one you want to take just for the simple. It's probably best to start off with the simple one-word things, just to get the feel for it. And then as you go on, you could add more layers, But yeah, start off with the one-word things. Right. So, and that one, I think that one's good to take as well, because it's got the houses and the signs all on it as well. So I'm on slide 104, and in total there's 142.
It's 12:17 a.m. here, and I'm on a mission. I'll watch it.
It's my moon day, as Litmus well knows. So
yeah,
I'm happy to keep doing the planet work. It is my moon day. Hey, Litmus. It is.
Yeah, definitely. It is now for you. Yeah, yeah. And I think we're we're into moon day here as well now. The first day of the deacon.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Well, then in that case, I will I'll just watch the replay. Before I disappear, I'll just read, because there's a few chat comments that have got missed.
Okay.
I'll go in reverse order. Okay, you are a shining Leo rising. That's from most of these are from Kathleen, but there was one of them is water signs can be very, very intuitive and empathic. Kathleen, what was that linked to at that moment when you wrote that? Do you remember?
Oh, just when Litmus was sharing about the air and the fire being less dense, and then the Taurus and the water being more dense. And I think, yeah, I was just saying that even though they're more denser, doesn't mean they're less spiritual. No, like Taurus is
no, not at
Taurus
all.
very connected to the third eye, and yeah, that's just what I was saying. But Litmus wasn't saying that, but I was just you weren't saying that they weren't, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents worth in there.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Because
I would definitely agree, totally agree, especially since I'm fixed water.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. And this is why we should never just look at one thing, you know, because with sort of Kali Yuga, you know, glossy mag, trashy horoscope astrology, everyone's like, oh, what's your sun sign? You know, oh, I'm this and we must be compatible, you know, and I'm like, bullshit, you know, look at your whole chart and study it properly and then compare it to someone else's chart and then you'll know if you're compatible or not just because you've got a sun in the compatible sign. So yeah, just I was talking about the hierarchy of elements, but it was not hierarchical in terms of who's more spiritual or anything. Yeah, so just for the record, that's not what I was saying. And of course, we all have a mix of fire and earth and air and water because of where all our planets are and stuff anyway. So it's not like, you know, someone's got all fire signs, so they're super spiritual. You know, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Kathleen.
And there was just one other. Kathleen also wrote, I've heard the MC referred to as our crown chakra and the IC as our root chakra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically your IC and your MC, that's your tree of life. So your roots are down in your IC. So that's the boundary between your third house and your fourth house. So between your immediate environment and communication and local travel and that kind of stuff. And the fourth house of origins and roots, your home and your family, where you grew up. So that's your roots of your tree. And then, yeah, your tree grows up through the middle of your chart into your MC at the top. And that's where the things you've learned from your origins down in the bottom of your chart bear fruit in the 9th and 10th house. Because the MC is a cusp between the 9th and the 10th house. So that's between your philosophy and your life work and your legacy. You know, and in your 10th house is where all your fruit comes to fruition. So fruition comes from fruit, right? So yeah, that's your tree of life. So absolutely right. Again, Kath, good one.
Okay, and also just Anna was here until not long ago. I think she's just gone, and she's just said, thank you so much. I had to go into listening mode, but awesome presentation.
Thank you. I like the word awesome. I will happily accept that. You know,
Oh,
I have
she's
got
still
Leo.
here.
Oh, she's still there.
Anna, are you staying on for the rest of it? I guess you'll answer.
I have got Leo rising, so I do have a certain amount of pride, you know, in what I do. So I like it when people tell me I do awesome presentations.
Well, this is an awesome presentation, but the thing is also my eyes I just can't stare at the screen for this.
No, sure, man. You go and we'll finish. So do I need to record it then or something?
No, so I will now I'll pass over the host to you. And when you close the meeting, then the recording will go to my cloud. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Right. Okay. So, right, you guys, let's carry on. The hardcore. Well done. I'm proud of you. So, just getting back to the agenda, what we're going to do next, we're going to look at the 3 most important parts of our charts, right? So, here we go. The 3 most important parts of your birth chart. It's what I call the Holy Trinity. And you could put a W on the front of there. Holy, you know, because we're all into the wordplay at the moment, right? So it's holy, holy. Right. So the two luminaries, that's two of the three most important parts. So the sun and the moon, which happen to be astronomically, they happen to be half a degree each. So if you put the sun and the moon together, you get 1 degree of the zodiac. All right, which I think is really cool. And then if you work that out, you can see how many. Basically, you need a sun and a moon 360 times, and then you get a whole year. All right. So the amazing thing, as we probably know about the sun and the moon, is the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, but the moon is pretty much exactly 400 times closer to us than the sun, which is how eclipses occur. So this new moon here, eclipses always occur when it's a new moon. So the moon is conjunct the sun in the same degree of the zodiac, and the moon passes in front of the sun. And by it, to me, this is one of the best examples of some evidence of intelligent design of the universe, which is why I believe in a higher divine intelligence. This is one example of why, because the chances of this naturally just happening without any kind of thought, it's just astronomical, you know, it's ridiculous, billions and billions to one, you know. So to me, this is a good sign that someone's saying, hey, look, guys, look what I can do. You know, it's like, check this out. Check out this solar eclipse, you know. So that's amazing. Also, the relationship between the moon, the sun, and the earth is what gives us the beautiful phase cycle we see throughout one lunation, where we go from new moon through the waxing phase to first quarter and up to full moon, when the moon is opposite the sun and the earth's in the middle. And then we come around to back to new moon again. And you know which phase of the moon we were born on in our chart also tells us something else about our nature as well. And now I haven't got that in this presentation, but I do have a slide on that, which is in another presentation. Now let's just look at the power of the moon. So again, like we saw earlier with Jupiter pulling the sun off its center, the same thing happens with the moon. We can think of the moon and the earth really as like a twin planet system rather than one planet with a satellite. The moon is really, really big. If you look at the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, they're really, really small in comparison to the planet, but our moon is huge for a moon. So the gravitational pull of the moon moves the earth and all the oceans of the earth, and the oceans are 71% of the surface of the earth, and the moon actually moves all that water and creates the tides, as you probably know. And it actually moves the planet off its center. So the barycenter of the Earth-Moon system is here, not in the center of the Earth. So the Earth actually kind of wobbles around this point as it goes on its course based on the pull of the moon. And it's 1 to 81 is the ratio. So here you've got some Tesla numbers again. Every time you see a 3 or a 6 or a 9, you know you're onto something. This is, Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, look for the 3, 6, and 9 and talk about energy, vibration, and frequency, right? So we are made of 62 to 75% water. So of course we are moved by the moon as well, but we're moved emotionally. And this is one of the reasons the moon is synonymous with emotion and water in the zodiac, as we've seen. All right. So this is what happens to the Earth. Look, it wobbles around as the moon goes around. Yeah, you have a good question.
Okay. Does the sun have any impact also, or is it only the moon?
No, the sun does have an impact as well. Yeah. But
okay.
the biggest impact on this is the moon, because it's much closer to us and it's very big. The sun is very big, but it's much further away. But yeah, there is a movement of the Earth because of the sun as well.
So,
And of course, on a full moon, you've got the moon and the sun in opposite sides of the Earth, so they're pulling in different directions.
so the question would be, because we're 65 to 70% water, and then if the moon is moving the oceans with tides, then the moon is moving us with tides. And the flow of our emotions is what's impacted only, or is it more?
No, and the water in our body physically as well, yeah.
Okay.
And not just water, but fluids, so blood. This is
Period.
why menstruation goes with moon cycles as well.
Oh, okay.
Because
Okay.
basically the moon moves liquid. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So if we come back to the Trinity, basically the Trinity is the sun, the moon, and the earth. So we're going to look at that. These are the symbols. So the symbol for the earth is a cross of matter in the circle of spirit. And this is basically our ascendant is our earth sign. Right? So where we see the ascendant in the chart there, that's based on the rotation of the earth, where it was that day, where it was in its rotation when we were born. So our ascendant is actually our earth sign, which means it's our body sign. So the sun is our spirit sign. The moon represents what we call our soul mind. So the soul, metaphysically, the soul sits in the mind. So they call the mind the seat of the soul. And so the soul and the mind are connected. And then the earth sign, the ascendant, is our body sign, or that represents the matter, the physical manifestation. Yeah, we did that one right. And so this is, I haven't got it on now, but I've got one of these, which I wear a lot, which is I have Celtic roots, and this is a Celtic tricena symbol. And one of the things it represents is this Holy Trinity of the sun, the moon, and the earth. So if we look at the sun with the spirit, that's, as we've seen, that's our motivation, our individuality, and the essence of our nature. And that goes with the element fire. So the spirit goes with the fire. And then the soul mind is about our emotions and our personality as affected by our emotions. So our moods, if you like. So the moon affects our moods, and therefore our personality in terms of how we express our moods. You know, they say, oh, he's a moody bugger, he's always getting pissed off, or whatever it is, you know. And that goes with the water and the air. And then the ascendant earth sign, that's about our self-image and our physical body, and that goes with the element earth. And then the sun represents the father and the seed generator. So this symbol for the sun is a little seed of potential within a circle of spirit. So what that tells you is this is the seed from your father, which created you, which gives you the potential to grow in consciousness from a tiny little sperm to the whole universe. So ascension is about expanding your consciousness where you can become universal consciousness. But to do that, first you have to go through all the cycles of, we start off in the mineral world, in the most lowest vibration, then we go through the vegetable world, and then the animal world, and then into the human world, and then maybe angelical realms and things. But eventually maybe we become planetary consciousness or moon consciousness, and then a star consciousness, and then maybe a system consciousness and galactic consciousness, and then universal consciousness. So over many, well, I don't even know what to call them, incarnations or something. Who knows what it's like when you're a planet? But but you know, this symbol is the seed of potential to grow into the full spirit. And then the moon represents the mother. So she's the one who grows and sustains the seed from the father. And the earth then represents the child, the offspring of that union. And really, the ascendant represents us until we're 30, when we have our Saturn return. Because once we have our Saturn return, we finally end the youth phase. And that's the spring of our life. So from birth to 30 is the spring of our life, ended by the first Saturn return. And that tells us about our physical manifestation. So basically what that means is we're going to be more, if we were going to pick a dominant energy, we would typically be more like our ascending sign energy until we're 30, when we have a Saturn return. And the idea is, we grow from our earth through our moon into our sun. So after we have our Saturn return, we need to start growing through our moon towards our sun, and to grow into our sun sign. So for me, I'm starting off as a Leo and showing off to everyone in school, standing on the table, singing and stuff, and trying to get girlfriends and whatever. And then I grow through my moon in Gemini to become my sun in Gemini in the 11th house, which is what I'm doing now. Yes, Kathleen.
Yeah, this is so fascinating, Linus, because other astrologers have said that the earth is the soul, is our soul, like our soul, more of our soul than our moon. So, but I'm resonating with this. But for me, I feel like I'm more Taurus, which is my rising now, than I ever have been in my whole life.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Interesting. Well, I'll have to look at your whole chart to see what's going on there, because you may have some aspects to your ascendant. Have you looked at that?
Chiron. Chiron.
Uh-huh. And have you got any wounded healers aspects then that might affect your focus on your ascendant?
Well, there was probably so much wounding in the first 30 years. So maybe now I'm, like could that have something to do with it? Like now I'm able to express more those Taurus qualities because I've worked through those wounds. Maybe.
Yeah, I think if you without any affliction, typically you would be more like your rising sign till you have your Saturn return. But if you're afflicted during those first 30 years and you have trauma and wounds and stuff that stop you expressing your rising sign energy, you're going to want to tick that box at some point in your life. So you may be too wounded to express your rising sign. So you may have expressed your sun sign more when you were younger and it's flipped it, And now you're older and you've healed the wounds and you've done the work and you've got the experience and the wisdom. Maybe you think, well, now I can be my Taurus, I can be my rising sign, because I never did it as a kid. So, that's how I would see that one. Yeah. Because it's like, personally, myself, I got married very young, and had kids very young, and had responsibility from a very young age. Mostly because my mother left home when I was 13. So I just stopped. It was like arrested development, So I didn't do a lot of things that teenagers and late teens, early 20s people do, because I had a job and a house and kids, and at 21 I was a father, and but so years later, when I split up with my wife and the kids were older, I got a band, and I was like trying to be a rock star, So, and it was great, but I did it in my 40s instead of in my youth, So, but it's something that's in me and it's in my chart, and it had to come out somewhere. And because I couldn't do it when I was younger, I just did it when I was older instead. So I would see your thing there as an example of that. But typically, if you don't have any afflictions to your rising sign, I would say this is how it kind of works. You know, you grow from your rising sign to your Saturn return, and then through your moon, learning about your moon energy to become your sun. And this is in one of my songs, Lost Without Love, you know, leave your moon there in the darkness and reach your sun. So this is an exercise. It's a very simple one, but it's just to find the sun, the moon, and the ascendant in your chart and identify their signs, just so you know how to do that. So this again is my chart. So I've got, you can see my sun here is right at the end of this symbol here, which is Gemini. So my sun says here 29, look. So I'm in the very last degree, just before it goes to Cancer. So that tells you I was born on pretty much on the solstice, what we call the summer solstice, winter solstice for you down under. And my moon's at 26 degrees of Gemini. And then my ascendant, so yeah, that's my sun and my moon. And then my ascendant here is pointing to this one, which is Leo. So you just find those symbols in your chart and where your arrow is for your ascendant and see what sign you got rising, and that's it. So that one's pretty straightforward. Are you okay with that, Anolia? Okay.
Yes, I am. I'm looking, and mine's pointing right at Gemini and also at Aquarius.
Aquarius?
East is...
Yeah. Do you mean for your rising sign or your sun or your moon?
The rising sign would be pointing up, correct?
No, this is the rising sign here. This is the sign that's rising. It's the sign it's the sign that's rising at this point where this arrow's pointing here.
Okay.
So at the 9 o'clock position.
Right.
So yeah, if you've got Gemini there, it means you've got Gemini ascending. So that's your Earth body sign is Gemini.
Okay.
Okay. And then you find your sun and your moon symbol and then see what sign they're in. And then you can look at those slides we looked at and look at the energies of Gemini for your ascendant and so on for your sun and your moon. And that's that exercise. And that's the three most important parts of your chart. So it'll tell you the three most important energies. Okay. So did you want to, you know your sun and your moon sign, yeah?
My sun sign is right on Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
And my moon sign, I'm trying to look for this symbol because I'm not familiar with the symbols. Mm-hmm. It's like the fountain, the ones that come together with the little fountain.
This is the moon one, this one here?
Yeah, it's on opposite, which is really strange.
Yeah, it's opposite, that's right. We looked at yours earlier, it's a full moon, right? You were born on.
Right.
So you got your moon up in the top left quadrant, haven't you? Yeah. Yeah. So just see what sign that's in.
I just don't recognize the sign.
The symbol, right.
The symbol.
What does it look like?
It looks like this.
Oh, Aries. That's Aries.
Aries.
Yeah. So that's the first sign of the zodiac.
Okay.
So you have your Earth sign where you start off is Gemini. Mm-hmm. And then your moon soul mind sign is Aries, which is about the self. And then your sun sign, your motivation is in Scorpio. So that's about your desire nature and your passions and all of that stuff. If you look at those slides with the Scorpio energy, you know, it'll tell you what that means. Right. Okay. All right. So that's that one. So I guess you can We kind of did that one, but you can do a bit more on it offline if you want to. So
Anna just basically said that her sun is in Libra, her moon is in Pisces, and her earth is in Cancer.
okay. So Cancer rising. Sorry, what was the moon?
The moon is it's in the chat, is in Pisces. And the sun
Okay.
is
So
in Libra.
well, that's a Pisces moon. That's very deep, deep feelings, deep emotions, deep psyche. Yeah, emotional depth, I would say. The rising sign in Cancer. Cancer is about sensitivity and goes with the fourth house, home and family. So that's all stuff to do with home and family. And then sun in Libra. Libra's the balance. So that's about justice and fairness and equality. The good thing about a Libra sun is wanting peace and harmony and everyone to get along. But the negative aspect, sometimes if it's challenged by a transit, it can mean that you overcompromise. So you can overcompromise to keep the peace, and then find yourself frustrated that you're not actually doing what you want to do, or not doing what you should be doing, because you've compromised for someone else just to keep everything harmonious. So it ends up harmonious for everyone, but not you later, if you see what I mean. So yeah, that's how that would express, I would say. So particularly in relationships. Yeah, so let's have a look at the dominant zodiac sign energy. Right. So this one is going to take longer. So again, I can run through it and you can do it like as homework if you want. So what we want to do with this is identify the element and the nature of the signs that each planet is in your chart. So you go through all your planets and you'd say, well, this one's in a fire sign, and this one's in an earth sign, and this one's in a water sign. And what are the natures? Well, this one's a cardinal sign, and this one's a fixed sign, and that one's a mutable sign. And you work all that out. And then you'd see which is the highest number. What element have you got most planets in? And what nature have you got? So have you got more cardinals or fixed or mutables? And then if you get a tie, because you're going to look at 10 planets initially. So if you get a tie in one of the elements or the natures, then you can look at your ascendant. What sign is that in, and what's the element and the nature there? And then you can look at your north node of your moon, which is this symbol that looks like headphones. See what sign that's in and put that in the mix. And then see if you get one come out dominant. So a dominant element and a dominant nature. And then what you do, say you end up with, like if I did this, well, let's do it. I'll show you mine. You can use this composite slide, to check all the natures and the elements. So if I do that on my chart, I've got 6 planets out of 10 in masculine or positive polarity signs. I've got 4 in feminine. I've only got 1 planet in a cardinal sign. That's my Jupiter in Aries. I've got 2 in fixed signs. Okay. But I've got 7 planets out of 10 in mutable signs. So no surprise, I love change and variety and moving around and stuff. And then elements, I've got 5 of my planets in air signs. So my dominant mix of energy is mutable air, and mutable air is Gemini. And that's no surprise because I've got 4 planets in Gemini before we start, but I've also got 3 in Virgo, and that's mutable sign as well. So on the this table here is in the, if you do get a cafe astrology report, it'll give you this. And this one is on your Astro Dienst from astro.com, gives you this little table. And so he is saying, look, my Jupiter here and my midheaven are in cardinal fire. So that's obviously Aries. And then my ascendant is in fixed fire, which is Leo. You know, my Saturn's in fixed air, which is Aquarius, and so on. These are my 4 planets in mutable air, which is Gemini. So, you know, you can get a report online that'll do this for you. But I think if you're new to this, this is a good exercise to do, to work it out yourself, you know. Then you really get to understand the signs and the energies that go with them. All right, so any questions about that one? Yeah.
I just have a question. So I'd love your wisdoms around it. So say you only have 1 or none planets in an element. Could this be that you already know these energies very well from previous lives, or you've really come what is your take on that?
Yeah, I would then look at the north node of the moon, see what sign that's in. Because so for example, I've got one planet in water. Yeah. And I've only got 1 in fire. But if I put my Lilith and my Chiron and my ascendant and all that in, I get, you know, my ascendant's Leo. So that adds another 1 to the fire column. So if I had a tie, I would do that. I would add more things in. But because when I do that, I've still only got 1 thing in water. It's my Neptune in Scorpio is in a water sign. So yeah, that says to me, I'm very low in water, which is emotion, right? So that can either mean you find it hard to deal with emotions. And in my case, I would think about, with my air, I would think about my emotions instead of feeling them. But yeah, as you say, it could be that in previous lifetimes, I did all the emotion stuff and I don't need to do it now. What I need to do now is all the intellectual stuff, maybe like what I'm doing right now, you know? So to answer that, I would look at my north node of my moon, which is in Cancer, which is the cardinal water sign. So that says to me what you're saying. I don't need to spend a lot of time on the water stuff because I've already done that. Sorry, the opposite. Basically, I need to spend a lot of time on the water stuff because I come from Capricorn with my south node. So I've got all the Capricorn stuff. Right. Yeah, that's right. So my mission in this lifetime is to figure out how to really feel emotion, right? Because I've only got 1 planet in water and my north node mission is in cardinal water. So there's my answer. And that is one of the challenges in my life, is to really feel my emotions and let my emotions be what they are, not try to push them away or, you know, hide them away in a box and not feel them and think about how I feel about. So yeah, that's a good question. So look at your node.
Yeah, well, I only have 1. I have Pluto in air, in Libra, and my north node's in water. My rising is Earth. So, but then could you add? Then I have a lot of houses in an air house. So is there that complexity?
A lot of planets, you mean?
A lot of planets in an air house.
Yeah. As you know, as we've said, all the signs correspond with the houses. So you can look at that. You can look at air, water, and earth and fire houses based on the sign that they correspond to. And you can also look at the planets that rule the signs and houses, yeah? because then that'll give you another layer of complexity to add to your question. And we're going to look at this when we look at the ruler of our chart. All right. So we don't only look at the energies of the signs and the houses, but we also look at the energy of the planets that are in the signs and houses, and the signs and houses that those planets rule. Yeah, you see what I mean? All right. Now, we haven't talked about rulership yet, but that's for another workshop. Right. So let's have a look at this chart ruler. So this is another exercise. So the ruler of your chart is the planet that rules your ascendant. All right. So what you have to do is identify the planet that rules your ascendant sign. So that's when you need a slide that shows you what the planetary rulerships are. Okay. And let's see, which I gotta admit I've forgotten to put in into this one, but I can quickly get it for you and show you in a minute. So what you do, so for example, my ascendant is Leo, so the sun rules Leo. Yeah, so the ruler of my chart is the sun. So the sun rules my chart, and then I look at the sign that ruler is in, and that tells me how it rules my chart. So my sun is in Gemini, so it rules my chart through communication. Okay, and my sun is in the 11th house, so when I'm looking at the house that my ruler is in, it tells me where in my life it rules. It rules my house of sharing and networking in social groups. You know, so that's why I love to do all the things I'm doing, because my chart ruler, the sun, is giving me that motivation to do it. Okay. And then we look at any aspects that are made to my ruler. So that tells me what other energy is influencing my ruler. So I look at my aspects to my sun, in my case, and I've got my sun conjunct my moon straight away. I know that. So that modifies it through emotion. Yeah, and then I go back to my chat and have a look, but don't think I've got any. Don't think I've got moon conjunct sun, but I don't think I've got anything else. So again, that's telling me about emotion, yeah. So it's telling me one of my biggest things to figure out in this lifetime is emotions, dealing with emotions, and using the energy from emotions in a positive way in your life to manifest the things you want, you know, and that's the best for everyone. So that's how we use our chart ruler. Now, do you want me to quickly get the slide that looks at rulership? Looks like some slides got deleted.
So if you're looking at your ascendant, in which my ascendant is Gemini, and then I'm looking at where the sun is placed on my chart, which is right by Mercury, then I would say that my ascendant is Gemini and my ruling planet is Mercury, correct?
Yeah, Mercury, but it's not to do with the sun. It's to do with the fact that Mercury is the planet that rules Gemini. But I just need to get the slide that shows you the rulerships, okay? I mean, it just so happens what you've done is the right answer.
Oh.
Yeah. But, you know, if it was an exam, you'd have to show your workings, wouldn't you? So, so you did get the right answer. Let me just get the slide. Okay, can you see the slides now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what we're doing, we're trying to find the planet that rules our ascendant, right? So this one what we do, we rotate the zodiac, not our chart, but the zodiac. So we put Leo and Cancer at the top, and then this is how the rulership goes. So I think I did a slide earlier where I just took all this stuff off so we can see it a bit better. We can take all this off. I must have lost that one along the way. Let's take all this off. Okay. So if we put the zodiac like this is how the planetary rulerships go. So the sun rules Leo. Okay. And the reason the sun rules Leo is because when the sun is in Leo in the northern hemisphere, it's at its most potent. So that's Leo is the middle sign of summer in the north, and that's the hottest time of the year. So the sun is ruling Leo. It's at its strongest. And likewise, the moon rules Cancer, because the Cancer full moon is when the sun is in Capricorn. Now, forgive me, Nolia, when you're new to all this, but you can listen back to it. When the sun is in Capricorn, the full moon will be in Cancer. And because Capricorn's in the winter, it means we're tilted away from the sun. So the sun is very low in the sky in the day, which means in the night, the moon is very high in the sky, because we're tilted towards the moon and away from the sun on the full moon. So the Cancer full moon is the highest and longest and brightest full moon of the whole year. So this is why the moon rules Cancer. So we put the sun and the moon at the top, and then Mercury, in astronomy, Mercury is closest to the sun, so it's never more than one sign away from where the sun is. So we put Mercury in the sign next to the sun, so Mercury rules Virgo. But the moon is in Cancer, so we have to put Mercury into Gemini for the next one. So then we can see Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then as we go, this is how it works. So, and then the next planet out from Mercury is Venus. So Venus is never more than 2 signs away from the sun. So it rules Venus and Taurus. Okay. And then the next one is Mars. So Mars rules Scorpio and Aries here. And I'll come to Pluto in a minute. And then after Mars, we got Jupiter. So Jupiter rules the next 2 signs, Sagittarius and Pisces. And then Saturn is the one after Jupiter, and Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. So of the visible planets, this is how they rule. Now going this way from the moon, this is the feminine rulerships. So we go this way for the feminine, and we stop when we get to Saturn. But with the sun, with the masculine rulerships, we follow the zodiac anti-clockwise. And when we get to Saturn, we keep going. So after Saturn, we've got Uranus. So then in the non-visible planets, Uranus rules Aquarius, because it's the one after Saturn. And the one after Uranus is Neptune. So that rules Pisces. And then Pluto, you would think, would then rule Aries. And I think it does because of this. But because of the time it was discovered and what it represents, transformation, it does also rule Scorpio, all right? So what this means is that some signs have 2 rulers and some planets rule 2 signs, okay? So the sun and the moon only rule 1 sign each, but Mercury and Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all rule 2 signs. And then Aquarius, Pisces, and and Scorpio, they have 2 planetary rulers, right? So when you're looking at planets rulership, you have to look at 2 for some signs. Right. So as I said, my rising sign is Leo, so that's the sun. Therefore, I look at what's going on with the sun in my chart. If you've got Gemini as your rising sign, you look at Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini.
Yeah.
If you've got Scorpio rising, you need to look at what Mars is doing in your chart, because Mars is your chart ruler, but you've also got influence from Pluto ruling your chart as well. And then if you've got Aquarius rising, you need to look at Saturn in the lower octave and then Uranus in the higher octave, the non-visible. And then with the same with Pisces, you look at Jupiter and Neptune. All right.
Right.
So again, you can take a screenshot of that if you want. And again, this is why we should have 10 days, not 7, because we've got 10 planets. All right, any questions about that? That's good, right? So now you can do your chart ruler exercise. This one, find the planet that rules your ascendant, find that planet in your chart, see which sign it's in to tell you how it's ruling. Yes, Kat.
Sorry, I know it's so late for you, Litmus. One question just came in, is that because Venus, obviously I said I feel very more like Taurus than I have when the first 30 years of my life, but could this be more that I feel closer to Venus, who's my chart ruler, now than I did in the first 30 years of my life?
It's certainly going to influence it. I mean, your chart ruler is very strong. Yeah, and as you say, Venus rules Taurus. So
she's opposite. She's opposite Saturn and Pluto, so I've had to learn some deep transformational stuff with Venus in order to balance out my relationship. So it could be that it's not so much I'm feeling more Taurus, but I'm feeling more closer to Venus.
Yeah, and probably some boundary issues with Saturn opposite Venus as well, right?
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, for sure. And so basically look in depth at Venus, check out all the energies of all the aspects that Venus has. And don't forget, Venus also rules Libra. Yeah, on here. So you can also look at Libra as well. Yeah, go on. Did you raise your hand again, or is that still there from before?
No,
Right.
I lowered my hand. I don't have a hand.
Oh, well, it was still showing on mine. But now I can see a blue hat, I think. Or is that on the wall behind you? Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, it's nice to see a hat, even if it's blue. I hope your hat isn't blue, Kath, today.
It's purple. It's a purple heart. And yes, my
purple.
heart is purple. I'm a very purple person.
I like purple too. Good. It's the color of the Godhead, right? Right. So you know how to do that one. So now let's look at the last bit, which is transits and compatibility. Now you may know how to do this already, but with transits, we're looking at aspects between the positions of the planets in your birth chart and where they are now. And you can put any date. So you can put any phase of your life in to check out what was going on with the energy of that time versus the energy you were born with. So if you don't know how to do this, it's very simple. You can go to Cafe Astrology birth charts, which is this link here, astro.cafeastrology.com/natal.php. And then you select your chart from the list, or you enter your birth details to get your chart. And then on the top left-hand side of your chart report, you'll see it'll say transits, and you can get 14 days of transits there. Or you can just enter any date in there. If you can remember a momentous time in your life and you want to see what transits you had, you can put the date in, and it'll tell you what all the planets were doing in relation to your birth chart. So what you'll get is you'll get two charts. So that you'll get your birth chart. It's not a great drawing, but you know it does the job. So this is my birth chart with my Leo rising and my sun and my moon in Gemini, etc. that we looked at. And then this was where all those planets were on the date that I did this query. I don't remember when it was, but it was saying this is where everything was. And then it'll look for aspects between these and these. So it'll look for oppositions and squares and trines, and it'll tell you what that means. So if we go there, see if I can I go? All right, and you put your name in there. And then you put your birth date in. Hopefully Roberto can edit that bit out then. Put in 1963. And the time, 8:15 in the morning, and the rising, I should say. And then you put your city of birth in and click OK. And then it gives you a free like 26-page interpretation report. It's well worth getting. There's going to be some contradictions in there, but it's free, you know. It's great. It's a great thing to get for nothing. And then it gives you all tables of all your planets and the signs they're in, and on all your houses, and which house all your planets are in. And then it gives you that little table where you can work out your dominant energy, because it tells you how many planets are in mutable and water and feminine, you know, and so on. And then it gives you all your aspects, birth aspects, and it gives you a rating. So my sun conjunct my moon is a very positive aspect. So it's got a nice high score of 566. And then this one down here, Mercury square Mars, is a challenging aspect. So that's got a negative score of 153. And it goes through all of those. And these are all my positives. And there's my few negatives. So overall, I got a highly positive score on the aspects in my birth chart. And then it gives you an interpretation. So the sun in Gemini, with the sun in Gemini, the urge for self-expression is strong, blah, blah, blah. So then you can read all of that. That's all for free, which is really cool. But what we were doing was transit. So if you look over on the left here, it's got, see the planet's influence on your natal chart for the next 14 days. If you click there, transits, you get this. So you get 14 days of transits. So if I pick this one, we've got, this is what's going on. Let's have a look. Now, why is it 5? Of course, it's Gregorian. I'm thinking we're in Taurus, it should be 2, but we're in May Gregorian, which is 5, right? Sorry. I'm so used to UCC now. I'm thinking, what's going on? So right now I've got the sun today. So here's today's date. The sun today is in opposition to my birth Neptune. All right, so that's a challenging aspect. So I get a negative score. So basically my motivation is being challenged by my fantasy world. Neptune is like your fantasy, your deep imagination. That's your fantasy world. Now, this is very interesting looking at this because I'm not going to go into details, but I have got a bit of a fantasy thing going on at the moment, and it has been challenging my motivation. And I haven't looked at this today, so that's interesting. But mentioning no names, yeah, and I've got Neptune right now square my natal sun, and so on. So that's really cool. And then it gives you an interpretation. So it starts with the strongest ones and is saying the conjunction of Mercury and Jupiter, that's a positive short-term aspect because Jupiter moves really fast. Your vision is excellent, blah, blah, blah. You can see the big picture. So it's a little bit, doctor's surgery magazine thing, astrology a little bit, but the process is really good. And, once you know what those aspects are, you can always go and research them more in depth from other sources. You don't have to just use this one, but this is a free one. So I use this a lot, I look at this a lot. In fact, I've got a tab saved in my browser, so it's always there and I can just click it on it anytime, get my report. So that's what you can do with transits. You can't see that. Can you my slides?
Yes, we can.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah, that's when you select desktop, you can see anytime you change.
Okay, cool. Right. So the next thing, so that we looked at transits, the next thing is compatibility, which is also known as synastry. And that looks at aspects between the planets in your birth chart and another person's birth chart. So this is a lot of fun. So if we go back to here, now instead of clicking on transits at the top of my reports, I'm going to add a person. And then I've got some people here who I've done birth charts for. So do you know what? You're only supposed to have 10 maximum on this website. I've got loads. I don't know how I've got all these. It's supposed to kick you out at 10. I've got like 100 or something. But I mean, if you want a bit of fun, we could pick one of you guys.
Go ahead. You see my name right there.
All right. Let's have a look. Let's see how compatible we are then, Anolia. So what this does, it's got my chart, my stuff in the middle, because I was first, and then I added you, so it's added your stuff around the outside. I think that's right. Yeah, so here's my sun and moon in Gemini, and here's your sun in Scorpio. So your things around the outside and my things are in the middle.
Okay.
And then it tells us, so here's mine aspect to you. So my sun is in a harmonious sextile with your moon. So that gives us a positive score, 302. So my motivation is in harmony with your emotions. All right. So if you're feeling good, Anolia, that's going to give me a lot of motivation. And then my Mercury is in opposition to your Mars, so that's not so good, okay? So there's our first black mark, is minus 71. So that's my intellect being challenged by your drive. So you got so much drive. If we live together, I'd be saying, for God's sake, woman, can you take a break and just rest? You're driving me nuts. I'm trying to study my intellectual curiosity here, and you're just busy doing the vacuuming and polishing the thing, and you're making dinner, and you're reading a book, and you're dancing, and you got you know what I'm saying. So
Although my motivation is basically studying too.
Yeah, right. I know. So, yes, so good. So let's see what you got. We got a lot of aspects here.
Yeah.
Anyway, overall, look, we've got 650 positive and 949 challenging. So overall, we're plus 701, which means we're very compatible, basically. So I bet, Kath, you want me to do you now, don't you?
Yes.
Oh, we got a gold star from Kath. Nice one. I think I got
It
Kath
was
there.
meant to be the POW. It was meant to be the POW one, but it turned into a star.
I like that one. Well, should we have a bit of fun, Kath? That one. All right. So I must have you somewhere here. There she is, Kenobo.
Oh, she looks more compatible right away.
Well, but my sun is opposite her Neptune. So that one's negative, but we do have some, yeah, we got a lot of aspects. Ooh, minus 57. It just means, we might have some challenging times to get through. But at least we know we were alive, right? So yeah, you can have a lot of fun. Do you know what I did when I found this? I went back to my marriage. I didn't know my wife's time of birth. Sorry, Sharon, if you're listening and it's being recorded, so I better not say too much. But I did put in our details, and we were actually compatible in a lot of ways. But one of the things it said was, I forget what aspect it was, but it said passion and love at first sight, and you can't stop touching each other, but over time this could fade. And it said under no circumstances should these two people ever live together. And we were married for like 20 years. So I did laugh about that. And that's one of the joys of astrology. So yeah, so that's how you do your compatibility. And don't let it put you off, people, because I do have a lot of affection for Kath, I have to say.
Well, I just looking at like Uranus and the moon, like I think I'm so drawn to your completely unconventional lightning bolts of inspirational information, and the moon there. This is what lights me up. So
Cool.
yeah.
Right. So let's go back to the thing because we're pretty much done, I think. So that's Margarita, who does in-depth readings. It's very good. And this is what we have learned today from our agenda: how to read our charts, the main components of our chart, the three most important parts. So the main components were shape. And the three most important parts were the sun, the moon, and the rising sign. The dominant, how to work out our dominant energy. So mine's Gemini, but you can do yours. And we looked at our chart ruler and what that means. Then we looked at the two extra things, which were transits and compatibility. And then next time, in part 2, we're going to learn how to sync and work with the planetary transits as they occur. We're going to look at how to work with the new and full moon cycles on every lunar cycle. So that's twice a month, and the cycles last for 6 months. And the solar cycle, so how to work with the solar cycle throughout the whole year, and to see which house we're in at every time of the year, and to know which area of our life that affects. We're going to look at how we set intentions for the moons and the times of the year, depending on what sign and house. So the sign that we're all collectively in and the house that we're individually in. So that overall we can go with the flow of the as above, so below. And that's about it, guys and gals. I think that is the end. Yes, Enolia.
I have one question. Would you just please comment briefly on Eris?
Eris?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Eris is...
Planet Eris, and then that was the one with the headphones, correct?
No, sorry, that's the north node of the moon.
That's the north node of the moon. Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you about that, yeah.
Okay, north node of the moon, and then, you know, does Eris play any role at all? Because it is you know, even though it's like a planet that's behind, it's just not included. It has no cycle.
Oh, no,
How would that be impactful?
yeah, Eris has a cycle. I think Eris is kind of a Kuiper belt object. It's way out in the beyond Pluto, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you could with astro.com, you can add all the asteroids in and see what they're doing as well. If you want to go to that level of detail, yeah. So you can get Manway and Eris and Makemake and all the other ones. And if you follow Pam Gregory, she talks about those quite a lot at the moment. But the north node of the moon is the headphone symbol we talked about. So let me go back to my chart. So see this symbol here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the north node of the moon. And the south node of the moon is the same symbol, but upside down, and it'll be exactly opposite in this over here. So the north node of the moon, mine is in Cancer, in my 12th house. And the north node of the moon is basically where the moon, it's a point where the moon crosses the ecliptic, rising north. Because the moon's orbit is tilted at 5 degrees to the Earth, yeah? So
right.
the moon goes up and down as it goes around the Earth.
Right.
So there's a point where it passes the ecliptic going north, and then another point the other side where it passes it going south again. So that's your north node and your south node. And your north node symbolizes your kind of soul mission in this lifetime. So to figure out what that soul mission is, you look at the sign in the house that it's in. So mine is in Cancer. So mine is about my roots and my home and my family, and figuring out what does home mean to me and who's in it with me and what kind of home is it and where is it and all of that stuff, all the home stuff. And looking back to my childhood and what was my home life like and what did that teach me and all of that stuff. And then because it's in the 12th house, I also have to look at Piscean energy, because Pisces, the 12th sign, goes with the 12th house. So I would look at 12th house qualities like the psyche and the deep emotions and the connection to the higher self and the connection to imagination, because Pisces in the 12th house ruled by Neptune. So then I look at where Neptune is as well, and Neptune is in Scorpio. So I look at what that means, and so you look at all the links to this north node. And then that tells me what my soul mission is. And my south node opposite in Capricorn tells me that in past lives, I know all about Capricorn energy. So I know, and the 6th house. So I know about how to serve others. And I don't really want to do that in terms of jobs to serve people, in this lifetime. I did a bit of that as a kid. And with Capricorn, that's about practical things, like making things and fixing things. And I have no interest in that at all in this lifetime. So that figures for me, I'd much rather pay someone else to do the fixing stuff and the mechanical things, so I can get on with using my mind to figure all this stuff out, So yeah, have a look at your North Node. But that's something we can look at more in the next workshop. Yeah.
We've literally just received a 10 grand 6-month course in 4 hours. So this is just phenomenal.
Amazing.
And yeah, everyone is so lucky to receive these. Everyone's lucky you have so much energy in your sharing house, Litmus.
Yeah, it's all those planets in my 11th house. Yeah. Well, thank you for your kind words. It really does mean a lot. And yeah, maybe I could go and earn 10 grand charging people, but why would I want to do that when I can give it freely to the world, Yeah, because when you give freely to the universe gives you so much back. And I'm so blessed and so lucky and so fortunate. I can wake up every morning and do whatever the hell I feel like doing, And that, for me, that's success, It's not about money or anything. It's about just being able to do what you love every day of your life,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my message to everyone. So thank you so much, guys. It really does mean a lot, and it makes it all worthwhile.